What is up, everybody? Welcome to a special 2023 NBA Draft edition of DBB Live. We're incredibly excited for tonight, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host Wes, who's a little bit under the weather, but he's trooping through tonight for his beloved Detroit Pistons. How you doing, Wes?
Yeah, I'm struggling. I'm doing good, but Sean mentioned it earlier. I think that's probably what's going on. It's this our uh, germs that got to me. I'm pretty good, but ready to go, and just excited that it's finally draft day.
No, you're a trooper, Wes, and we appreciate you pushing through tonight. And we're also joined by Detroit Bad Boys managing editor of the site, Sean Cott. How are we feeling, Sean?
I've never been less sure about what's going to happen and also less worried. There's no duds in the pool of options, so that has me feeling pretty calm.
Love to hear it. And also joined by DBB staff writer Blake Silverman. How are we, Blake?
Good, Jack. Excited to be back here. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to being part of the group alongside Wes for his flu game. And yeah, I'm ready for some chaos.
That's awesome, man. And finally, DBB staff writer and Phoenix Suns staff writer for Bright Side of the Sun, Damon Allred. How are we doing, Damon?
Just excellent. Have been waiting for this for months and months, and we're finally here, so we're ready to get rolling.
Let's do it. And I wasn't sure if he was going to join us or not. Maybe he was going to show us up, but our draft expert for the night, Bryce Simone of Motor City Hoops, is here. How are we doing, Bryce?
I'm good, man. I would never show you guys up. I was just doing a little bit of work, and then I had to do some dad stuff before I jumped on the stream. My kids don't put their bikes away, and I got a little bit of OCD, so the bikes had to be in the shed with the door shut, all of that stuff, so I could just focus on this. So I may be a little bit in and out, guys. I do have some other things that I got going on some conversations I may have to be a part of. But outside of that, I'm here and I'm excited.
No, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate you being here. I was just joking. So, guys, I thought I'd just open it up real simple. Is Asar Thompson the pick tonight? Sean?
Is Osur the pick? I mean, he's the leading contender, but I'm not as convinced as a lot of people seem to be just because that's the popular name right now. I wouldn't put it past Trey Weaver to have a different opinion in the last moments and making the selection he wants to make. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to see. I feel like Asar, there's definitely been a cohort of Pistons fans that have been behind him, but in the past couple of days, it's just been pretty interesting to see everyone get behind Asar. And I know my co-host Wes, how would you feel if Asar Thompson's the pick tonight?
I mean, listen, I can't say I'm not worried about it if he is the pick. I think he's got some red flags, but I mean, if they pick him, I'm gonna be rooting for him, right? He's a Detroit Piston, if that's the case, and hopefully he's gonna really show out. But I'd be a little worried.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess, Blake, you've been someone I've seen who's written a couple of articles on Asar Thompson. You seem to be a little bit higher on Asar than most. So I guess for Pistons fans tuning in tonight, what would be the ceiling, or what's the pitch for Asar Thompson at 5?
Yeah, so I mean, I see the name that is thrown out there a lot of times for comps is Andre Iguodala for him. I think being that there are both Thompson twins in this draft, like there does get a little bit of confusion on like the differences between the two. Asar is definitely like more of a true wing. Amen is like a lead guard. So I think that's the clear difference right there. Asar is also already a little bit better of a shooter than his brother. That's the big concern with both of them. And also like Asar has shown some decent like defensive chops at OTE. Still, of course, has some work to do there, but he's also been a great scorer. He's won a ton of awards while playing for OTE in the past couple years. And I'm interested to see whether he ends up in Detroit or not, like how the NBA will evolve his game. He was playing off of his brother a lot at OTE. So I think there might also be some playmaking ability that we haven't fully seen from him yet. Maybe over someone where that's like a big concern with Cam Whitmore. Thank you for the comment about him.
No, for sure. And I guess, Damon, if Ausar is drafted by the Pistons, how do you see him fitting in with the young core Detroit sort of have in mainly the three headlining names in Duren, Ivy, and Cade?
Yeah, so I think he fits in beautifully. He does have a lot of that wingy game that Blake was referring to. And it's the kind of thing where if he is in lineups with Cade and Ivy and Duren, that he's able to do a lot of the off-ball stuff that would come with playing in a lineup like that. But then, like with bench lineups too, he'd be able to fill in some of that creation as well, just because of, both of the Thompson twins are kind of walking paint touches. Amen more so than Ausar, but both of them really have that athletic equity that can really translate almost immediately, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And the intel on the Thompson twins from day one has been they're extremely hardworking, high character. So there's definitely plenty to be excited about there. And Bryce, look, we're still yet to see Wes's jumper, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say you've got the best jumper on Pistons Twitter. So in my opinion, one of the major swing factors with Ausar working out in Detroit, if he is the pick, is the jumper. And we can get into this later if he actually is picked. But we spoke about this last week on the show. What's your thoughts on the jump shot and how do you think it will translate to the NBA?
Yeah, I mean, I have some worries, right? I feel like everybody goes, oh, well, Ausar has a better jumper than his brother. And I'm like, yeah, but everybody crushes his brother for not being able to shoot. So how much of a compliment is that actually that he shoots better than his brother? I will say I hate to do this, but watching the videos on Twitter of their workouts, it looks good. Like it looks fine, right? Like it looks like he can become a 35% 3-point shooter or something like that. I will say this. I've said this over the last couple of days. I kind of made a mistake trying to evaluate Ausar because as a Pistons fan, I was trying to compare him to Cam Whitmore as a wing and the type of wings they are, and it's not really the same. Whatever Cam Whitmore does is going to be completely different, what he would be as a player. And so I actually do. I don't know if Blake was saying he didn't like the Andre Iguodala comp, but I actually do kind of like that for Ausar, at least initially. And he does a lot of those things that are really valuable. So I don't think the jumper has to be great, I guess, Jack, to answer your question, but it can't get worse, right? Like that's the fear is he comes into the NBA, he loses confidence, whatever. He can't shoot 25% now, but if he's at 30, he can survive. If he's at 35, this was a great pick at pick number 5.
Yeah, for sure. And it looks like we're not far away from the first pick being in, but I guess obviously this is a Pistons stream, but I think it's worthwhile discussing Victor Wembanyama for a second here. This guy's a generational prospect. I mean, since I've been following the NBA closely, I don't think there's been a better player drafted. I think most people would say he's the best prospect since LeBron. I guess, Sean, what are your thoughts on Victor Wembanyama? Do you think, I guess I'll pose the question. Do you think?
I think he's going to be good.
Yeah, that's a pretty good start. Do you think the Spurs could push for a playoff position in year one? It's hard to say now prior to free agency, but do you think he's that level?
I'm not even sure that they want to. They could if they added him and then added some veterans to try and win a bunch of games. I think they're smart enough to know he's so good and they have so much flexibility that they can just let things kind of grow organically and then go from 0 to 60 in one off season when that time is right.
Yeah. I mean, Wes, do you have any injury concerns? I mean, I don't want to be too negative here, but do you have any concerns with Victor Wembanyama as a rookie or in his first couple of seasons?
And I know our guy, Kyle Metz, says that there are big injury concerns, and he's just worried about the size, the lower body ankles, right? Ankles, knees. I'm not too worried about it. He seems like he really takes care of himself. Excuse me. He seems like he really takes care of himself. Um, he's got a good team around him. They seem to really monitor everything. I mean, I'm not too worried about it, but just given his size, I mean, there's a little bit. I just don't think it'll really come to fruition if I had to bet.
I think we're gonna. I wonder if we see him do what the dreaded word of load manage though in his rookie season. This isn't like me firsthand doing this. I've just listened to podcasts. I do that a lot, and that's where some of my knowledge comes from. But they talked about 2 years ago, the team Wimby played in 2 different leagues, and so he was playing like 2 or 3 games a week, and he did deal with some injuries. Where this year, playing with Mets 92, that wasn't necessarily the case, and that allowed him to stay a little more healthy. So, and again, I record in a bedroom with no TV, so I am more like I need you guys to let me know what picks are happening, so I can stay up with what's going on. I'll try to follow along on Twitter, but if there's a trade, if there's something crazy, I need you guys to let me know. So just like lottery, you guys all Blake was like reacting, or I think Blake said, "Oh no," or something like that. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, I didn't want to do too many spoilers, but I have the draft up on my iPad right next to my screen. So I'll do my best to keep everyone posted on what's going on. San Antonio's pick is in, so we have no idea what it's going to be, but
I think they're going to go with one of the Thompsons.
Yeah. Amani Bates. I don't
Shock the world.
Oh, Amani Bates.
The Amani, Bates.
I've probably ignored more Amani Bates questions in chats that I've been a part of, like these lives or Twitter Spaces, than any other questions I've ever been asked. I was like, I just don't want to get into it because I know people are going to hate my answer.
Well, can I just ask you? Oh, sorry. As someone who obviously lives in a different country, is Amani Bates from Detroit or is he from Michigan? What's the connection? I know he's
from a suburb, not a suburb. He's from a city that's probably about 30 minutes outside of sort of the Detroit area. So he's a local kid for all intents and purposes. And he was such a highly regarded recruit coming out of high school that people thought he was going to be one of those guys. And it hasn't worked out like that, to put it kindly.
And he was getting like magazine covers at 14 years old. Like everyone jumped on him really, really early, and he kind of stagnated. He might be a very similar player today, but taller than he was back then. So, yeah, kind of a weird situation.
Yeah, and Jack, just for some other context, he did when he was in high school. I think when he was a junior, he committed to Michigan State, and then like decommitted and went to Memphis and ended up at Eastern. So yeah, a ton of Michigan ties for him.
Yeah, for sure. Like I remember seeing the YouTube, like, I don't know, Ball is Life or whatever. It was like him versus Chet in like high school. And like, I remember Amani was like touted to be like the next KD, which gets thrown around far too loosely. But yeah, it doesn't, like someone just said earlier, it doesn't seem like he's grown or anything since then. So, I mean, do we think he gets drafted tonight or is he more of a two-way guy?
I'll say it so Bryce doesn't have to. He's not going to get drafted or drafted very, very low.
I wouldn't draft him. Damon, it sounds like you at least think you will. I don't know. Maybe you would also.
Well, the Suns have pick 52. Would you?
I'm cool with him taking him at 52. He's got a relationship with Kevin Durant already. And I think that having an infrastructure like Devin Booker and Kevin Durant around him, who are probably two of the most, head on their shoulders kind of stars that we have in terms of like respecting the game and treating it the way it's supposed to. I think that he could develop well in a situation like that. He just had a mess of a development context for most of his life so far. Like he was coddled by his dad, who built up a prep program from nothing to we're going to showcase Amani, and that's our sole purpose. And it just wasn't the best thing for him. He needed to be made more uncomfortable, I think.
Agreed, 100%.
And guys, for everyone tuning in, if you've got questions, I should have mentioned at the top, but if you've got questions, put them in the comments. We'll do our best to answer them. There is one here from Travis, basically saying, What do we think Charlotte is doing? Could they really pass on Scoot, which ties in nicely? Scoot, in my opinion, is the second best player in the draft. But I guess, Bryce, what are your thoughts on Scoot? And do you think Charlotte should take him at pick 2?
No, I don't. Or yeah, I do. I think they should take Scoot. Sorry, but like I have him. It's all about tiers. I won't go through all of it, but like I have him in a different tier than Brandon Miller. So I don't think you all of a sudden go for fit. And even if there was, this isn't even a Detroit thing, guys. Like in Detroit, I could actually understand why people had questions. Me and Wes debated all night long, multiple nights about Scoot with Jaden and Cade and all that stuff. I got it. I still would have taken Scoot for what it's worth, but it doesn't even make sense for Charlotte. There's only one other ball handler there. We're not talking about two guys. Like trade Terry Rozier if you're worried about it. Like that's not in the long-term plans anyway. So I would take Scoot Henderson and I wouldn't even think twice about it for Charlotte. That's my opinion.
For sure. And just so everyone knows, Victor Wembanyama has been selected first overall. Absolute shocker.
Real quick, I want to clear the record. I did eventually come around to saying that Scoot ought to be the pick if they went number 2.
All he would ever agree to is that the offensive fit would be okay. That's all I could ever convince him of.
Yeah, and that was worth it. That was it.
What if it was Anthony Black, Wes?
Oh,
You'd probably take him at 2.
We got crushed this week for our Anthony Black love on the podcast.
Yeah,
Amari was
ridiculous.
It wasn't even that much of a conversation.
Amari was getting.
It was
killed.
like Anthony Black exists. He's talented. He has these measurements, and he's in the conversation along with all the other people that the Pistons are talking about.
Amari
the
texted
major
me the next
pushback
day.
was just that he's not Killian.
Yeah,
Like,
Amari texted me the next morning. He's like, man, I don't know. I think we talked too much about Anthony Black. You think we'll get any pushback? It's like, no, man, it was fine. Like, it was all good. I pull up the YouTube comments and somebody was like, drink every time they say Anthony Black. I'm 30 minutes in and already wasted, which that one was kind of funny. So I can't blame him for that one. So the draft's about to start now here, Jack. Like,
Yeah,
really
we've
started.
This is where it gets interesting.
Does anyone think either 2 or 3 could be traded legitimately?
I think
Not
the price is like too high. Like I think Shams like broke, or if it was news to break before that, New Orleans had a meeting with Scoot Henderson and they were trying to find a way to get 2 or 3. But it seems like the price to me is just going to be way too high for a deal to actually happen. It would be fun if it did, but I don't see it happening personally.
Yeah, the only one I could kind of see happening is 3, but like that's only because Portland's really not interested about getting back into the first round. They trade 3 for like a star, right? So if for some reason that becomes available for them, I could see it. I wouldn't expect it though. It doesn't seem like that's the way it's going.
Hey, you guys got to go check out Twitter real quick. Grant Hill drinks Sprite. Obviously, you're watching this. He sent a picture. He's got his TV on top of his piano, and it's us. It's not the NBA draft, guys. It is us on the TV. I assume he probably has the NBA draft somewhere else, but I'm going to live with he's just getting everything from us right now. So just wanted to give him or her a shout out right here. Grant
I
Hill
hope he's not
Sprite.
an Amani Bates fan.
Oh, yeah, he may have turned this off already. Or Anthony Black.
Grant Hill, like former NBA player Grant Hill?
No, that was just part of his handle.
Oh.
I don't get it. Grant Hill drinks Sprite. I'm too old for that.
Commercial.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah,
Too old. Maybe you're too young, actually.
That's right, Sean. Old commercial.
That's right. From my childhood.
So has there, I guess,
Victor's like balling up there.
Yeah, his entire family is so tall. I mean, shocker. But
Yeah, go figure.
Like,
His brother looks exactly like him.
Yeah,
his
Oscar
brother
coming
older or
soon.
younger?
Younger.
6'7".
has he got NBA potential?
That's the
wondering
full
today.
extent of my knowledge.
Yeah.
Every time I
that's
see
the
these sit-down interviews, I think about the Darko Milicic year, and he was drafted, and he went to the couch, and he demanded that his interpreter not join him on the couch so he could do the interview, and he couldn't understand a single word that was asked of him. And I was like, oh no, this is a bad sign already. And yeah, it was just a sign of things to come.
Just quickly, I mean, I don't want to stick on Darko Milicic for too long, but what was your reaction to the pick, Sean, back in 2003?
Oh, everybody at the time was like, oh, the Pistons have extensive knowledge of overseas players because they had drafted a few before and they turned out well. And everybody's talking about Darko being great. So it was just like, all right, they got the next superstar, the next Dirk Nowitzki, next like Hall of Fame big man. And yeah. But I will say it doesn't matter because that same year they won the title. And if they had drafted anyone else, maybe they don't win the title. So
that's a good way to look at it.
Oh wait, who went to?
Charlotte's pick is
Are we
in.
doing leaks?
It's not. Yeah.
Not yet. The pick's just
I say it's been spoiled on Twitter, but it hasn't been announced yet.
Also,
I want to check so bad.
Yeah,
When they were
holding off.
I talked to Balsa.
Balsa.
Yeah. Well, I think we're gonna wait till it's
Okay.
on the. Yeah.
when
we
when
gotta
they
see
were
it.
showing like the Bobby Marks team needs for the Spurs, it just said Victor Wembanyama and a starting point guard, and I just love that analysis.
That's spot on.
Like
I saw that on there. I thought they were calling Victor Wembanyama the starting point guard, and I was like, okay,
Do
yeah,
that too.
he's talented.
Why not?
Oh man, I'm dying to check who this pick is. Who do we think it is, or has everyone seen it? Because I still haven't checked.
I've seen it, so I won't.
I haven't. I'm
I
gonna
haven't looked. I think it's Scoop. That's my
I'm going to
gut.
say Scoop. Blake.
I'm gonna say Brandon Miller just to be different. I mean, if it was me drafting, I would pick Scoot, but I think Charlotte might go Miller.
Like, am I?
Here's why I don't think it's Brandon Miller. Because Brandon Miller came on an interview and said Michael Jordan airballed a free throw. And MJ's just not going to accept that.
No, I
He's
think
not on his team.
I
Let's
think
hope.
MJ
Let's
loved
hope.
that. I think somebody like MJ is looking for people to challenge him in that way and not be scared. Like the ultimate competitor that's willing to have somebody come at him. So
I see Brandon Miller on the phone, Bryce.
Yeah.
Does that mean anything?
I do. Like I said,
Looks like
it's been spoiled for me. So
Brandon Miller.
There it is.
Wow.
there you go.
What a
Okay.
mistake.
All right.
All right, guys, let's go. Okay, so Brandon
here's
Miller.
what.
All right.
So can I say something real quick, Jack?
Yeah.
Like all of this shit was smoked. Sorry, Sean. I don't know if I can cuss or not on this. So
You
I
swear more, Bryce. It'll drive viewers.
Okay, dock my pay. Like I just think all the smoke screen was bullshit now, and I know we should have known that, but an hour ago people were talking about Brandon Miller falling to 5 because nobody was going to, and now he's at 2. No, and Damon, I don't think it's wrong. Like all we can do is listen to what these people are putting out there, and it's like I think it's awesome. I think teams messing with each other is the coolest shit ever. I think it's great, but it sucks for people like us trying to make accurate predictions. So, sorry, Jack, go ahead. My bad.
Am I crazy for thinking Scoot and LaMelo just would have been an awesome duo?
No.
Not at all.
Blake?
Man.
No,
Like,
I would love that. Like I actually saw the Ignite play when they came to Detroit and played against the Motor City Cruise last year. And I went to that game. I was like, I want to see Jaden Hardy play. Dyson Daniels was on that team. And like leaving that game, I was like, this Scoot Henderson kid is a problem. I know like I've been trying to debate whether just Victor and him being the 1 and 2 for how long it's sort of clouded my judgment, but I just really think he's the clear better prospect, like clearly a much different player than Brandon Miller, but I think him and LaMelo could work very well, like LaMelo with the outside shooting and facilitating and Scoot with the explosiveness to the hoop. A little bummed we're not going to see it, but I guess I understand where Charlotte's head was at.
For sure. I think, Damon, I guess I'm not sure where you had Brandon Miller on your big board, but how do you see his fit with the Hornets?
I think I finished with him at 5 or 6. I just think this is a monumental mistake for Charlotte. I think Scoot is generational, just like Vic is. Obviously not to the same extent because he doesn't have the same kind of physical tools. But for a point guard, he does have really incredible physical tools. You talk about like a 6'10" or so wingspan. Like that mitigates the 6'2" of it a lot. And his defense is already really, really good for most of the time. It's just like these couple possessions here and there where the intensity wanes, but he has all the tools you want for a point guard. And I just like Charlotte's now going into potentially having Brandon Miller and Miles Bridges on the same roster. And I just don't know that that's the kind of, wing pairing that you want when you look at the sort of things that's happening off the court in their lives.
For sure. And I think the first thing that comes to mind is just from a Pistons standpoint. This is just a random thought. Like, is Gordon Hayward a player you guys would be interested in? I think he has 1 year left on his deal. Is that, presumably Brandon Miller starts at the 3. They've got PJ Washington, Miles Bridges potentially coming back. Would you guys take a flyer on Gordon Hayward if on an expiring?
I think I would exhaust other things first, right? Like, I don't think that's my first choice. I mean, I'm going to throw the bag at Cam Johnson probably, right? And that's only going to take 24 hours with the new CBA. It's not 48 hours anymore. So you only have to wait a day and then you get your cap space back if they match it. I would exhaust some other things, but yeah, I'm comfortable doing the Sin contract thing this summer. I mean, I wouldn't give up any resources for it, unless it's just a balance of the roster or something. But yeah, I mean, if they really want to compete a little bit this year, bring in Gordon Hayward, let him play off the bench, and then, you get the cap space back the next offseason to make a bigger decision with. I don't hate it.
Sean?
I mean, if it allows the Pistons to get rid of one of their duplicative big man contracts, and that's pretty much it. Like, it's roster balance for probably both teams, like a win-win with very little upside, but gives, each fan base a few less heart palpitations per season. So why not do it? David, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
If you're really, really high on Scoot and they chose him at 2 in Charlotte, is he somebody where you would have wanted him to try and work it out with LaMelo in the same backcourt, or is Scoot a good enough prospect at this point, and LaMelo is what he is at this point, hypothetically, not saying that you believe that, that you would just sell high on LaMelo and sort of retool what you're building around?
I would certainly give it a chance first. I think that, maybe it doesn't work out and you flip him at the deadline, but I think at least got to give it a shot because Scoot is just the kind of guy who checks every single intangible box that you would want a guy to check. And I think that when you have that level of basketball character, so to use a Monty term, sort of, like that's a guy who can figure out a basketball scenario just because of how competitive he is. He can work things out, and he does so many things that LaMelo doesn't already do. Like, LaMelo's got this contact aversion. You're not going to find that with Scoot. Scoot's going to get to the rim, and he's going to get to the free throw line. And so they both just add different elements.
Speaking of, sorry to
Portland just picked him.
Portland just picked Scoot Henderson, the 3rd overall pick.
Rightfully so.
I guess that's sort of
if I can say a fake trade, knowing that like New Orleans was trying to get up here, I mean, and Portland wants a star to put along Damian Lillard, like, why not ask about CJ McCollum? He would fit nice next to Dame.
I thought you were going Zion, and then as soon as you said CJ, I just want to. We've talked a lot about Scoot. I just want to he's a little bit taller than what everybody's saying. Value that however you will. He has the wingspan. He's strong. He's athletic. All the physical tools, right? the thing that jumped at me first, and I watched him 2 years ago, just like what Blake was talking about, was actually the nuance he plays with, like the cerebralness he plays, all the other stuff that he did, snaking ball screens and putting defenders in jail. He was probably 17 in some of that film I was watching because he started playing G League Ignite games at 17. Excuse me. I know a lot of Pistons fans are like, well, Saban Lee does this in the G. Saban Lee's like 25 years old, has how many years of college experience, NBA experience, everything like, and is probably like a third point guard in the NBA. So yes, if you take Saban Lee, make him 6 years younger, stronger, more athletic, take away all of the experience he had, then like that's what Scoot was. So like, I guess my point is like, I don't care that some of the stats weren't just like dominating out of this world. Like you watch him play and he just does some really good stuff.
Yeah. Watch the games against Mets 92.
Yes.
Him going at Victor
when the lights were the brightest.
Yes.
He just went straight at Victor in that first game. That was nuts. Like they've got some highlights up now, and I think at the G League it's more about like you said, Bryce. Like Saban Lee can go there because he's such an elite athlete and just blow by guys, get to the rim, get fouled, and you can probably do that at that level. But just watching Scoot, if you watch the tape, like the pull up jumper, the pick and roll play, like just the explosiveness, like he's got it all. And I guess my question. Do you see Scoot as more of a Donovan Mitchell type or more of a like a Derrick Rose type or even more of a pass first sort of point guard? I guess Blake.
Okay.
Okay, no, you go, Bryce, and then Blake.
No, I was just gonna say, I think he's a run your offense. Like, doesn't just have to be this amazing bucket getter, 25 to 30 points a game. That's why I fell in love with Scoot. I don't know if everybody else sees it that way, but that's why I fell in love with him was because I think he can just be an engine of your offense that maybe scores 22, but also gets 10 assists. So.
Yeah. I was going to mention something similar. And like, I really do like the scoring ability he would bring to Portland now. Like, even though he doesn't have to do that, and he probably won't be asked to do that playing with someone like Dame, I think he can bring that to an offense and pop up, be like a 20, 25 a game guy. But also, like Bryce said, also have that playmaking upside as well. So I think he's a great like cog for any offense.
For sure. I mean, then now the trio of, I mean, if they keep Dame or trade Dame, the trio of Simons, Sharp, and Scoot, that's pretty exciting if you're a Blazers
Scoot
fan.
and Sharp. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Yeah.
What a combo.
Yeah. Yes.
You almost feel bad for Portland because you wanted to keep Dame and build a contender, and then this prospect falls in your lap, and you're like, well, I can't trade him. It's going to be too early to build around him. And it makes more sense to wait on his prime than to maximize, a few more years with Damian Lillard. So, like, just by fate, they might have forced Lillard out of Portland for, the best for everybody.
Yeah, it's an interesting fit. And like when the lottery results came out, like I was almost hoping a bit that Houston would fall to or would get like 2 or even 3. Like I would have loved to see Scoot on that team. Like the storyline of him and Victor both playing like near each other. Also, I would think he would fit great with Houston's young core. And that's really what they need. And I mean, they're still on the clock. If they take Amen, they're still going to have probably the most exciting young backcourt in the league. So whatever they do is going to be really exciting.
Hang on. The Rockets will have the most exciting backcourt in the league.
Athletic, I should say. Sorry.
He meant in the West.
I'm just joking. Those two are ridiculous athletes.
He said athletic. He said most athletic young backcourt.
Must be some issues all the way over here in Australia. But yeah, I think
quick too. I was kind of thinking the same thing as Blake in terms of like wanting Scoot to go to Houston in some way, just because I think Scoot is a really big culture changer, and I think that's what Houston really could have used. You get a much more established head coach, and then you get a much more established, like almost like a veteran for a 19-year-old. He's kind of a veteran leader.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think, the first thing that comes to mind is if the Rockets take a man and the Pistons take a star, this little rivalry that's budding of two.
Summer
rebuilding
League is going to
teams.
be lit, Jack. That's what I'm telling
Dude.
you right now. They're opening Summer League because so what we're going to get San Antonio and Portland for the nightcap, or maybe this will be vice versa. Maybe they open it, but I would bet a lot of money we get Pistons Rockets on the opening night of Summer League. And I mean, as far as I know, a men and a stars never played against each other. In some sort of league or anything like that. I'm sure they have like in pickup games or whatever, but that place may be crazy on that Friday night. It's a good thing you already booked stuff, Jack, because prices are about to skyrocket after this.
Yeah. I've had stuff booked since January. It's a bit more of a logistical feat for me. But it's I mean, just the back and forth between Pistons and Rockets fans. It's just another element, another layer of fun. I
just want to see Amin. I want to see Amin run from backstage when he's supposed to be doing all his post-draft meet and greet stuff, and just go back on stage and like hug his brother if he's drafted right after him.
All right, the pick is in. Looks like.
Does anyone think the Pistons are still entertaining trading their pick?
I think they should, but
who would know?
I just love this.
Should and will.
Exactly. So no.
Yeah, I don't think they will.
To answer your question, Sean, I'll say no. Matt Babcock dropped a nugget on the spaces I was doing that the Wizards were going to take Bilal Coulibaly. Well, they're not going to trade up to 5 to take Bilal. So now you're just got, huh?
Wizards at 8 are going to take Bilal.
That's what he said.
Oh.
That's what he had heard. So that would be interesting.
That's
so now
it's one more prospect available at 9 if the Pistons traded down. I don't know.
So there you go, right? But sorry, is the pick in? I've seen it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
They on the ESPN broadcast, they did show him on the phone before, so I don't know. I'm keeping an eye out on what the Pistons are gonna do. They should be officially on the clock now.
Woo.
So the Pistons trade scenarios that have been rumored, it's 9 and 16 for pick 5. That was with Utah, I believe.
I mean, does Indiana, are they worried that we're gonna take Jarris Walker? I feel like they really like him, and I don't know if they would try to trade up too.
So my thing there, and I know they're not the same players. I get it. I'm not saying they are, but if you're Indiana, do you just say, hey, we're comfortable if they take Jarris and we'll just take Taylor? If you're really set on a 4, I'm not saying that they would be. You could have those guys in different tiers. Again, they have completely different play styles. But yeah, that would.
I mean, to me, if they were on the same tier for Indiana, I think that Troy's price is always high, and so it becomes it's too prohibitively expensive to move 2 spots to take the guy you want. So you just have to be willing to stay where you are. If the price was low or reasonable, I think that's one thing, but that just doesn't strike me as Troy Weaver's not conducive to those kind of deals, considering how many times he's allegedly been offered deals for his first round pick before and always turned him down.
Yep.
Did Troy do any trade? Oh, of course he's done trades. That's a horrible question from me. Just gone blank there. That's an absolutely horrible question from me. Well, yeah, here we go. The Pistons are on the clock. 4 minutes to go.
It hasn't been spoiled yet. I'm following Shams on Twitter because I can't watch it.
I heard James might have spoiled it.
James,
I think Shams has been ahead on everyone except Vic.
Yeah. James put out what he's hearing. He didn't say this is it.
Yeah.
Oof, I'm nervous.
See, now I want his interview to last 4 minutes, and then he has to run from this couch to the stage to hug his brother. That's what I want.
Okay, so I'm just gonna say this. Like, I wonder if there is something going down to the last minute. Brandon Miller,
because it's taken a while.
Yeah, when Shams tweeted out the scoop pick 5 minutes later, and then literally 5 minutes later he tweeted out the Amin pick. So I'm just like, there was this 5 minutes in between, and we're 10 minutes now before. I mean, so
Maybe
now okay. As I say that, he spoiled it. So,
Oh god,
never mind.
Well,
We have 3 minutes.
our pick is in.
I just feel like it's a SAR. Everything points to it being a SAR. So that's
I
why I'm
didn't even
rolling.
use the full time to.
The one
Pick
that's
is in,
true.
right?
Yeah,
So-
that means they knew there was no deal on the table.
Mhm.
The one thing you could say for Troy Weaver, as much as he doesn't like to talk, I feel like there's people that have a good beat on the players he's interested in. Like in free agency, those names come out early. In the draft, those names come out early. Everyone knew he was interested in Ivy and some other folks. So like, I don't know. I feel like we all know where the wind's blowing.
I just want to point out.
And now we
something
have to
funny
decide
from-
whether we're happy about it.
Yep.
Just pointing out something funny from the broadcast. It put up the Pistons team needs, and one of them was a healthy Cade Cunningham.
Yep, I saw that.
Well, thank you.
And that's fair.
You don't know how depressing last season was. It was brutal.
Where
I've
would
missed
you rank
Westeros
that,
too.
Sean? Where would you rank that in your seasons as working for DBB? Is that one of the worst to cover?
Oh, my first year on working on DBB was the Greg Monroe rookie year, so it's been a while. It was the worst season since they traded back for Brandon Knight. Like that half season was the worst basketball I've ever seen. That full season was probably
That
the
was
worst.
bad.
I'm already getting text messages of.
Happy ones?
I'll refrain from answering that question.
I'm not.
Oh, you better tell me what you're hearing privately.
I will tell you once. I don't want to ruin it for everybody.
Oh, come on.
I feel like I know what it is.
Pit-
This is just worst case scenario. I know it.
Yeah.
What Wes's read?
you go.
You feel the phlegm in the back of your
gonna
throat
be a
just
sign.
rising.
100%.
Here we go, guys. The
100%.
pick is
Sorry,
in.
Wes.
My phone is blowing up right now.
Yeah, it's all right.
Moment of silence for Wes, I guess.
Yep.
Sar Thompson.
I'll be floored if
at
it's
pick
not.
5.
That's all.
There we
There you
go.
go.
Wes, your nightmare is a
It's
reality.
back to back. It's
But-
cool. I'll give it that.
All right. So
The narrative, Wes.
Wes has
Yeah.
got the flu. He's picked. Sar Thompson's been picked. But hey, let's be
Not a great
positive, guys.
guy.
Let's be positive. So I want.
I can do the positive.
Yeah, let's go,
I can
Bryce.
do
give us
positive.
the-
Yeah, I was gonna say.
give us the couple
Listen,
spin.
yeah, listen. There is plenty to be excited about with the Sar Thompson. He is a top 2-3% athlete right now as he gets drafted into the NBA. He has a high feel. I think what you hope is any of the bad habits that I think he has defensively was just from the product of the environment he was playing in, where he was way better than everybody else. It looks like these kids really. We should just talk about Asar. It looks like he really wants to play defense. All of the intel is that he's a great kid, a hard worker, all of that stuff. And I do think like he can just cut, play off ball, be a playmaker, do some creative things with him. I think Monty will find some ways to utilize him as a rookie. And he kind of fits. I know people are saying, oh, the Pistons need shooting. Yes, they do. But he fits a lot of the things that this team didn't have, especially on the defensive end. So I was lower on him. I'm not going to flip that and act like I wasn't, but there's still plenty to be excited about with him. So, Damon, I don't know if you have more than that to be excited about as well.
Yeah. So you and I on Twitter the other day were talking about like the difference between ceilings and floors.
Yeah.
And I do think Asar has the highest ceiling out of everyone that was left on the board. And while his floor may be lower than like Jarris's or even Taylor's maybe, I think that the percentage that he reaches that ceiling is pretty strong because you mentioned those intangibles. And, getting back to the Monty thing, I've obviously seen Monty firsthand for a while, but he kind of doesn't like players who don't play disciplined, so to speak, don't play like this buttoned up version of basketball. I don't think we ever had anyone who plays as loosely and freely in his time, or in Monty's time in Phoenix. And so I just am wondering what that dynamic is going to be like between Asar and Monty. But that would be the only thing that I'm getting hung up on right now, at least.
For sure. And I know, Sean, you've got to jump off in a moment, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on the pick.
Yeah, to me, I asked myself, when's the last time the Pistons had a defensive wing prospect at this caliber? And you have to reach back pretty far. Secondary playmaking and plus defense, you have to probably reach back even farther than that. So if you're thinking about what it takes to succeed in the modern game and the kind of complementary pieces you need and the kind of athleticism you need to have as sort of a multi-positional defender with, the ability to move and a long wingspan, like that's the Asor pick right there. The question is, and we can get back to this hopefully when I jump back on, how good can he be if his shot doesn't improve? Is it possible to still have an NBA career? That's one of my big questions. So I will silently work on a story real quick, and I will see you soon.
Well, I think we've got the perfect person
Yes, we
here
do.
to help answer some of those questions, Sean. We've got a very special guest joining us, Matt Babcock, who's made some time for us. So we're very appreciative for him jumping on the show. Matt, welcome to the show. And first of all, what's your thoughts on the Pistons selection of Asar Thompson?
I love it, and I've been high on the Thompsons for a long time now, and I was lucky to be able to be a part of Overtime Elite for 6 months prior to them launching. So I helped build their scouting department and help identify both of these kids, and so did my best throughout the process, not being biased. But this is pretty much where I thought they would be at this point, and I think everybody's done a great job of evaluating these kids, because they're bringing up the right questions, the outside shooting, right? And I think Asar is naturally a better shooter than Amen, but he's got a lot of room for growth. And the biggest thing for me with both of them, but is the way they're wired, the way they approach things. They're very serious about basketball and getting better. Maximizing their talent. So I just have a lot of confidence that Asar is going to be able to maximize his potential or get close to it, including the shooting. I mean, is he ever going to be a knockdown guy? Probably not. But this guy is an Olympic level athlete, incredible defensive player and defensive playmaker too. In one comparison I'd like to throw out there that's extreme is guy reminds me of Scottie Pippen a little bit. Big, versatile perimeter player. He's not a true point guard like his brother is, but I mean, you can count on him doing a lot of secondary playmaking, chance of being an elite defender and just big time athlete. So great pick in my book.
For sure. And I guess
so. Matt, real quick, I got a quick question. So what type of player do you think he could be, year one, and then long term? You said Scottie Pippen, but are there any other outcomes for him that you think could be likely too?
Yeah, no, sure. I mean, obviously Scottie Pippen's Hall of Fame player, one of the best players of all time, and so that's an extreme comparison. And so I'm not saying he's necessarily going to be quite that good, but I think style of play and just a player that's a big time athlete and checks so many boxes. I just I haven't heard that thrown out a whole lot, and that's kind of how I see him if everything does click. As far as next year, I do think he's capable of playing right off the bat. I mean, one thing that I think rookies struggle with a lot on the floor is being able to guard. And I mean, he's going to be one of their best perimeter defenders right off the bat. And so, I think Monty will like him, just kind of give them some defensive versatility right off the bat. The biggest thing, with him year one is he going to be able to hit shots, at least at a decent rate? I mean, I'm not expecting him to come in and be where we want him to be long term, but he's got to be able to hit some shots. I mean, that will limit him, especially with the way the Pistons team is built. I remember, Bryce and I was on his podcast earlier in the year, and we had talked about this. Hey, it's not necessarily a perfect fit with Cade and Jaden because they're still developing shooters as well. So there's some limitations with that trio. But I do think he's going to be effective right off the bat just because his defensive abilities, athleticism, and just versatility overall.
And Matt, a question for myself. There's been a lot of good intel on the Thompson twins. I guess just approach to the game, their work ethic, their attitude overall. Is there any additional insight you could share just on the twins with your ties to the OTA and that sort of thing?
Yeah, like I said before, I mean, there's only so many ways to say it, but just really good kids, just all the way around. I mean, just, I trust them. If I were a coach, if I were a general manager, it's the kind of, they're the kind of people I want in the building. I think they'll contribute to a winning atmosphere. Just good guys and workers, and I think they'll be coachable. I think Monty Williams is a pretty old school coach, and I think these are the kind of guys that will absorb coaching. So I think it's a good fit. Again, I mean, I think the big thing long term, not just with the SAR, but with the Pistons as a whole, is they need to get those three guys shooting the ball. I mean, a lot of their success in with their team as a whole and with this trio is how good of shooters can these guys become, because if they can keep the floor spaced, we're talking about three very dynamic players. I mean, especially athletically with Jaden and Asar. I mean, these are going to be two of the most athletic guys in the NBA like next year.
No, it's insane. It's and then you throw in Jalen Duran. I know he's at the center position, but there's, for a roster that I think during Cade's rookie season to 2021, where athleticism was somewhat of an issue, I think Troy Weaver's done a really good job the past couple of drafts, really bringing in some top tier athletes. And while we were chatting, then I just wanted to note the Magic did select Anthony Black with the 6th overall selection. Is that a surprise to some? I guess Bryce.
No, I mean, I think this was where I think a lot of people felt like they were going to go, right, Matt? I mean, we talked about this on the Spaces a little bit earlier today, that it seemed like Black was kind of who that they had pinpointed, even though they do kind of like to keep things close to the vest.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I projected Anthony Black at that pick. I mean, things have been changing a lot this last week with our order and whatnot. And I got a little nervous because I had Scoot at number 2. And I got off to a slow start. It was funny, last year I started with Jabari Smith at number 1, like a lot of people did. And so nice to kind of get it turned around. Oh, Coulibaly at 7. Wow.
Whoa.
Went even higher than I predicted. Wow.
What?
So, Matt, you were projecting, you thought pick 8 to the Wizards, I think, in your Spaces with Bryce earlier. That's a shocker.
I was not expecting this.
It's traded to the Wizards.
Yeah, I wonder if this is a trade. Oh, it is a trade?
Is there any?
Yeah, it's a trade to Washington.
Okay, that makes sense.
So they traded up one spot.
So that means somebody else, right? Matt Washington believed enough that somebody else was coming up to 7 to get Bilal. Like, I mean, this kid was in even more high demand than what I think people were saying. I mean, at least until the last 24 hours, maybe. Yeah.
I mean, I was a little nervous if he was going to go 8 because I got to put my neck on the line for it. So him going 7, this is a surprise. And I wonder. Yeah, I'm actually interested to get off here to make some calls and see what the deal was. Good for him though, and good for Boona and Compsport. I mean, at the same age, if I remember correctly, of Victor Wembanyama. And this kid's really been a nice success story. I mean, really, I remember going to watch them, against Scoot Henderson in the fall before the regular season started, and was kind of just a fringe prospect at that point, and really just had a great year and kind of chipped away at everybody. And 7th pick in the draft, it's pretty cool.
Matt, I know you got to go do your thing. Text me if you have a chance to hop back on. I know it's going to be a busy night for you, but we always love your insight and anything. So if you catch a free minute here or there, something like that, shoot me a text and we'll link you back in. So
yeah, maybe after I think what Detroit has 31st pick, right? Yeah, yes, so sir. I'll hit you up after that. Maybe I'll pop back in. So thanks, guys.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Okay, so is there any?
Does that make you more excited, Wes? Sorry.
No, you're good.
I already knew.
Wes has heard. Wes
he's
has heard
great
all
for the
that.
hype man on him.
Yeah, Wes has heard all that.
That's not the first time.
But now, do you believe it?
I mean, I still don't really believe it. I'm rooting for it to happen, though. I mean, like, for me, the question is the playmaking, and then sometimes he looked a little stiff out there, so I also worry a little bit about the athleticism translating. But I mean, overall, all the positives that Matt brought up are, I don't disagree with any of them, right? I mean, he could be a really great player.
Damon Blake, like, I do have some concerns. The numbers back it up, but even the film, like, I don't think his handle's as creative as a Mins. I don't think he's quite as athletic. I don't think he pressures the rim quite the same way. I'm not saying it's bad, but he did have a little more finesse when he like did some pivot moves and stuff as I was watching some film the other day. But do you guys agree with that? Do you think it's overblown? Do you think it's too much? Like, what were your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah. Just to jump in, I mean, like, I love Bilal. Like, I became a huge fan of his. I think, like, I wrote about the Pistons possibly targeting him at 31 like a month and a half ago. So it's crazy how much traction he gained. My biggest concern with him is just like watching him play. There did look like some moments where he just looked a little bit lost on the floor. So I think he's a huge project. So I do like him ending up in Washington and then like fully going into the rebuild scenario. I think it's a perfect situation for him. I don't know if they're gonna have him play right away. Maybe keep him getting some time in like the G League program. But yeah, my biggest concern with him is just like how much there still is for him to grow. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I do love the upside there.
I think, is this Koulibaly? Sorry, I was a bit distracted there for a moment.
Yeah, I was actually asking about Asar, but I love the Koulibaly.
I'm still like shocked.
It was
taking a swing on a guy like Koulibaly at this stage. Like, you're at the start of your rebuild. Like, they're going to be bad for the next couple of seasons. Why not take a swing right now? You know, they're going to have top picks the next couple of drafts. I mean, what are their other options? Walker, Hendricks, Cam Whitmore. I mean, Whitmore has a little bit of star potential, but he's dropped dramatically in the past few days on big boards. So I think it's a fun pick. I think Wizards fan, that could be really fun. Obviously a project, but yeah. Has anyone got some confirmed details on the trade?
Kyle put in the chat 2 seconds from Washington to go to 7.
Yeah. And I mean, for the Pacers, right? I mean, just to take 2 seconds, drop back and still presumably get your guy in Jarris Walker. I mean, great move.
So somebody, like, I'm just trying to, who was trying to move up? Utah?
OKC, maybe.
OKC. And so probably the thought is they're like, Indiana doesn't want to move back that far. That's a huge thing, even with whatever assets Oklahoma City wants to give. You're not getting your guy at 12. You're not getting Jarris Walker at 12. So,
and there it is. Pick is in. He stands up. Jarris Walker.
There you go. Yeah, that's a coup for them.
So I got a friggin' root for a Pacer. Oh man.
And Mathurin, like Kyle just said.
Yeah, I know. I liked Mathurin last year.
Yeah, they're building something.
Yeah, I like Turner too.
Fun group.
Yeah, Pacers are fun.
So we got Halliburton, Mathurin, Walker, Turner. Who starts at the 3? Who's their wing? Buddy Hield.
Jarris
But
Walker.
in terms of, that's true. Well, okay. Question.
No, I was being a smart ass.
Well, no, you brought up the question. Do you think he can play at the 3? In my opinion,
that's why I said it.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I said he's more of a. That's why I didn't like him as much. I thought he was more of a 4-5 than a 4-3. And this actually, I think, Damon, I think this started the you and I thread the other day because me and Steve kind of got into it a little bit about Jarris and some different things, and then it continued on into other conversation. I just don't see it. Like, again, this is why basketball is all sports, but basketball, all 6 of us could watch a game and come away with 6 different perspectives on that game. Like, it's just the way things are. And for me, I just don't see it. I just am not able to believe in it.
Yeah, I was really high on him. I liked him, and I did see him as a 4-3, but not right away. Right? I mean, I think right away for the Pacers, he's a 4, and it's just, it's those mid-range flashes. You know, when he'd attack a closeout, get by the guy. Make a real nice play and flash just a nasty mid-range pull-up, right? creates space pretty well. It's just not really realized his more potential right now. I think he even, if his assist to turnover ratio wasn't negative, it was 0, right? So like, yeah, he got a lot of assists for a big, but he also turned it over a bunch. I think right now, like Bryce said, he's a 4 or 5. Long term, I did like the potential that maybe he could handle the ball a little bit and create, but that wasn't a right away thing.
So I have a question. Is he a 4-5 because that's his offensive role, or is he a 4-5 because he can't really handle defending threes?
I think he's a 4-5
That's right.
defensively. Like I
Yeah.
think there's a major difference between matching up with a 3-man and a 2 and being able to switch onto a 3 and a 2. And in my opinion, I just think he's better as like a 4-5 switching onto those guys than just saying, hey, Jarris, go guard Jimmy Butler, go guard Jason Tatum, those type of guys. The Aaron Gordon, essentially what Aaron Gordon was doing in the playoffs. Like, again, I understand the people who say he can do it. I didn't necessarily see that necessarily. So
I will say I do
And again,
love
for
his
me,
fit.
that's an eventually thing. Oh, go ahead, Damon. Sorry about that.
I do love his fit next to Turner, especially the pairing of Jarris at the 4 with a stretch big at the 5. I really do like that too.
Yeah, I do too. It's a great fit for the Pacers. I was just going to say that again with the with guarding out on the wing. I think he could take like big threes, but wouldn't be frequent. He's got to get lower. He looks a little high to me. I think he could get there eventually as well, but like not right away. So right away as well, 4 or 5 because of defense and offense to me.
Yeah, and like I've heard Bryce, you talk about this on the podcast fairly frequently, especially with draft stuff. Is one thing to be able to like switch on to threes. It's another thing to be like a full-time 3 defensively. So from what I saw at Houston, yeah, I think he's a true 4-5 or a true 4-man for me defensively. That's where I think you get the best out of him at least. So him next to, I was about to say Miles Turner. That's pretty exciting for Pacers fans.
Evan did play for the Pacers. You weren't that far off. Near the end of his career, he did.
Oh man!
So we kind of skipped over the Anthony Black selection because Matt was here.
Oh, yeah. Talk about an insane core.
I know, like Orlando was already intriguing to me, and I know they have some guards. They kind of have to work through figuring out who is actually worth their time. But like, how do you think they're going to use Anthony Black within that sort of core build? Open question to anybody who cares to answer.
Wes, you're Anthony Black, man.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of him. I think they ought to just run him out at the point guard day one. I mean, he's also such a high processor. He's real athletic. I mean, I think he's your long-term solution at point guard for them, and it's pretty great that they can actually trot him out at point guard instead of Detroit trotting him out at the 3, which is, I mean, I think he could have guarded it, but wouldn't have been ideal. So, I mean, I think it pushes either Fultz to the 2 or to the bench for them, and I'll be honest, I wouldn't mind going after Fultz if they're open to it.
This is I don't want to put any. The first thing that came to my mind when I saw Anthony Black to the Magic was Alfred Payton.
Because of the hair.
And because of the hair.
The hat being like all the way on top of his hair was pretty funny in his pictures.
I had the shelf.
How far is Cam Whitmore gonna fall? Like
that's what I'm wondering. Like, and that was one of my big like wondering points coming into this is like I feel like the reasons that people are saying he's gonna fall is like things that we already knew. So like Bryce, maybe you have insight into this, but were his interviews that bad, or is just like the playmaking concerns like that big of a deal?
So here's my opinion. You watched him in the field, the playmaking stuff showed up on film, right? I could give you a ton of justifications for how bad that environment was and why it didn't go good. Like I heard like his coaching staff was crushing him. Like there was a huge disconnect, in my opinion, between Cam Whitmore and the Villanova coaching staff. And honestly, it wasn't fun watching that team play offensively at all. My guess is everybody was giving him the benefit of the doubt, and then he came in for interviews and workouts, and everybody was like, oh, this is why the coaching staff didn't like him. Like, it was like confirmation that it was all on Cam Whitmore, and there wasn't anybody else really to blame, like the environment or the play style or anything. I also heard about a week ago that medicals were starting to pop up. I heard that about a week ago. And then it finally came out into the public. I wonder how real that is, for a guy who really relies on explosive athleticism. So, man, this is quite the fall. And I know people are going to I'm waiting for somebody to come at me like, oh, you had Cam Whitmore at top of your, well, Sam Vecini had Cam Whitmore number 3 on his board. So I feel pretty comfortable about where I had Cam Whitmore whenever one of the best in the business had him at number 3 overall. So
I think it's worthwhile jumping in to say that bunch of 6 prospects, everyone had them varying. They were all pretty close. It was a matter of what do you value? And just so everyone knows, Taylor Hendricks has just gone pick number 9 to the Jazz. So the fall continues for Whitmore. But
so now the Pistons are going to trade for 10?
If they left with Asar and Cam,
if this is the reason Cam fell, he's not going to be on Troy's board regardless.
Maybe this is the reason he fell, Sean.
That would be so cruel.
It would be amazing. No, maybe Cam wanted to come to Detroit, and no, you're right. That's way too much.
It cost me millions of dollars and a bad reputation so that maybe I could be selected if you can get a trade to go through.
Maybe he wants to play for Detroit that bad.
It would be like some
draft day then stuff. He's insane, and I don't want him that bad.
Where's he going to go? Seriously, though.
Dallas?
I was just gonna say, if Dallas keeps this pick and Whitmore slides, I think Dallas should take a swing at someone like Whitmore. I think they're just trying to find someone to pop as a secondary star alongside Luka if Kyrie stays. So if I was Dallas, I would take the swing on Whitmore here, but there's clearly some stuff that I don't know about going on.
Dallas just needs an actual perimeter defender. For the love of God. I don't know if they need a star. They need somebody that can guard the best player on the floor and let some of their lesser players hide a little more on defense.
We've got a trade, by the way.
Okay.
Can I say the trade?
Yes.
Dallas.
Sorry. Can you say it?
Say it.
Okay.
So Dallas is sending 10 and Davis Bertans to OKC, and the tweet includes the player that it's for. Should we say that too at 10?
Throw it out there.
Yeah.
Kaysen Wallace.
Wow.
Oh, I love Kaysen Wallace.
The best perimeter defender in the class.
Yeah.
So
why doesn't Dallas just want him?
Exactly.
Right?
I don't get it either.
God.
I guess they'd rather get off Bertans. It's Bertans and Wallace to OKC.
Okay.
I don't like it. I don't like it if I'm Dallas.
Dallas gets 12 and a traded player exception.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering if OKC was going to get any additional draft compensation for taking on Bertans,
a 2029 first.
Yeah, just more in the arsenal.
So far, it's just 10 and Bertans for 12 and a player exception.
So they thought Orlando was going to take Kaysen though. That's what I don't understand here. This doesn't make sense because they didn't actually. I mean, I guess they gave a little bit because they took on the contract, but
maybe Orlando had another trade lined up because they wouldn't want Anthony Black and Kaysen Wallace on the same team. That doesn't make any sense.
That's what it was. They feared Orlando had a deal with somebody else that wasn't them,
or that even Dallas was going to take Kaysen.
Yeah, because Kaysen, you could make an argument for Dallas. So okay,
I'm making the argument right now. Dallas should have drafted Kaysen Wallace.
Oh, also, I want to say in the SBN-wide mock draft, the community one, I selected Kaysen at 12 for OKC.
Let's go.
So I feel a little vindicated.
You knew a trade was coming.
Hey, when you start getting into these later picks, man, that stuff gets hard. Definitely, You definitely got to carry that whenever you hit those ones.
I believe we selected Asur Thompson at 5 for Detroit. I believe Victor was correctly selected at 1. So this mock draft is turning out pretty foolproof so far.
Oh yeah.
Asar Wallace. I don't mind that.
I was trying to think about my big. I think my big board overall has been pretty close. Other than, I mean, the Cam Whitmore fall has been crazy. I didn't have Bilal Coulibaly that high either, but I had Kaysen as my very next player in the next tier after the top 9. So
my question on Kaysen Wallace, open question to our draft people. Do you believe in the jump shot?
I do.
Because I think he's the perfect off guard to play alongside like a primary guy if he can develop the 3-point shot.
Yeah,
yeah. When the Suns were in the conversation for number 10, whether it be like DeAndre Ayton or whatever goes to Dallas, 10 was Kaysen Wallace for me to Phoenix next to Booker, and this was before the Beal trade too. So I really wanted Kaysen next to like a high usage guard like Booker, and so I think that fit next to Luka, or I guess now it's going to be Shea. I think that it works. Shea and Giddey.
Yeah, it works so well.
I think you could even play all 3 of them together.
Man, and
I think they will.
They'll play all 4 of those guys. They'll play Kaysen, SGA, Jalen Will, and they'll just play Giddey at the 4, right? Like they'll
Josh Giddey is going to go his whole career without having to play defense, and he's just going to become beloved.
Well, okay, can Chet play at the 5?
He's already beloved.
I don't love Chet at the 5, but I mean,
that's my question with that lineup. Offensively, yeah, I like it, but I don't know about Chet. Like, don't you want him roaming, like in that Evan Mobley role, maybe?
Mm-hmm. Which
sounds like they should trade for a team that has too many big men.
They need big men that can protect the rim, Sean.
James Wiseman.
Hey, you have to start somewhere.
And doesn't just post up.
They
can have Ayton for Kaysen. Let's go.
Do you think a Ayton rehabilitation year is possible? I know that's not Pistons related, but is he just what he is, or is it?
I don't want anything to do with it anymore. I've had enough.
That sounds so Andre Drummond. Oh my God, I just had chills.
He just doesn't work hard enough to be a part of this core, frankly.
Wow, God.
We've seen
so
enough
familiar
of
to me.
All right, Kaysen, well, picked at 10, as we know, going to OKC though.
It's so dumb that he has to put on the Mavs hat.
Oh yeah, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree.
And
you're ruining people's historical photos.
Exactly.
The interview is going to be cringe, and like just the NBA has to figure this out. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, and like Jarris Walker's whole family was throwing on Wizards hats, and that trade was done like the pick before. So it's just like, oh man.
This is insane.
It was like Mikal Bridges when he got drafted by his hometown Sixers and then traded like seconds later, but was wearing a Sixers hat throughout the night.
And his mom worked for the Sixers at that point, I believe.
At least that trade worked out for both organizations.
Yeah, Mr. Peanut Allergy.
Zaire Williams? Is that his name?
Zaire Smith.
Former Piston, Zaire Smith.
Yeah, are the Pistons still paying him?
No,
I think Deadman's the only dead money still on the the only substantial dead money on the book. Deadman has like 3 more years though.
Dwayne Deadman, Blake Griffin. No, Blake's up. No, it's just Dwayne.
Thank God they didn't stretch that contract.
I saw people comparing the Wizards rebuild to the Pistons. I'm like, the Wizards
it's because they don't know how much the Pistons didn't have.
Yeah.
Blake, how many picks did they get for Beal?
Wasn't it
how many picks did
They
Washington
got
get?
6. They got 6 second-round picks for Beal.
6 seconds.
I just want to
had to pay Blake Griffin to go away, dump Andre Drummond. Like, come on. Not even
so the Pistons for Andre Drummond, Blake Griffin, and Reggie Jackson got John Henson, the return of Brandon Knight and a second-round pick, I believe. And those were like your
Yeah,
three
and like
top salary
the
guys.
48th pick overall was the one asset they got.
Like,
That was how they started their rebuild.
Can we answer the question from like? I already know where I'm going to end up on this. I'm going to end up being like a Sarr lover because I'm going to have to defend him so much, and I get it. So the most recent comment, Jack.
Yeah.
Like I listen, there is a floor, right? Like there is a floor. There's absolutely a world where he loses confidence. Like I even think there's something real about these two guys have always been together and now they're going to be apart. Like I think that's a real Twins thing. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well. But he has super high feel, crazy athletic. He defends. Again, I think he has some warts he has to work through in terms of bad habits, but it's more about the context of the environment he was in. And did you just take a shot, Jack or Wes?
No, that's medicine.
Take well. Take well.
Yeah, so you took a shot. Good for you. Okay,
He's doing 151 every time someone defends a Sarr.
live on the.
That's what it is. I hear positive Asar talk. I'm throwing back the alcohol.
I've called the hospital preemptively for you.
But like,
Appreciate it.
there's just a lot of.
Whoa!
Really
I just saw the 11th pick.
Oh, last thing, bro. And the intel is crazy about this kid, about how good of a kid he is, how hard he works, all of that stuff. So that's my quick pitch. I don't know if anybody else wants to get into it.
Let me. Can I reframe kind of to the question I asked before I had to hop off to write a story? So we know that Asar has all these base skills and this huge flaw in his game, and the Pistons have some history drafting players who don't have a shot and can't get it worked out. So let's say Asar, his shot only develops to the level that we saw Stanley Johnson develop his shot. If you take that ability to shoot and all of his other skills, all of his other positives, what kind of career is he carving out for himself? Is he a starter, a rotation player, a fringe NBA player? Where's he land?
Comparison I really liked, and I think like Stanley Johnson was a decent athlete, but I don't think he had like the vertical pop. Asar has.
He was
I
below
see
the rim.
Yeah, I see Asar like a comparison I've heard thrown around I really like is Gary Payton II. Maybe that's the flaw. Defender.
He's so much bigger too, though.
I don't hate that.
Yeah.
No, and that's the role that you would have to play him in too, right? Like that's what I think. I don't want to say what I was about to say. Like there's going to be something creative. You're going to have to be creative. You can't just
a Bruce Brown with the Nets.
So here's okay. So I did this with Wes one time. He's like, Bryce, you're stupid. That doesn't sound anything like Hami. I was like, Wes, I was just trying to use the athleticism comp. Hamidou Diallo is a competent NBA player. Asar Thompson is more athletic, taller, longer, younger, has a way better feel for the game on both ends of the floor. At the very least, he's Hamidou Diallo, and that's not what you want at 5. Don't get me wrong, guys, but he's at least that. And then there's all these other things he might be able to do. Of course, it's a bunch of ifs, but if the shot comes a little bit, if the ball handling comes, and I think he can be like a second. I think he can run the bench unit as the point guard eventually as well. Like Killian may not be needed anymore as far as I'm. Wait, did Jet Howard get picked?
Yeah, so Jet Howard's just been picked.
He's
11.
What?
Whoa!
Interesting.
He sucks.
I love it.
Oh wow, I didn't know Juwan Howard was his father. Whoa.
I can give the positive Jet Howard if you want a positive Jet Howard.
Yeah, hit me. Because I work at the University of Michigan, and I hate Jet Howard as a prospect.
Who picked
I
him?
think 11 is early for him.
Orlando.
Ooh.
I think
know.
Orlando's just going all in on shot making and guards right now. I think Jet's a pretty smooth shot maker and shot creator, and he can play make a little, but doesn't bring a ton else to the table. But he doesn't need to bring a ton else to the table because the Magic already have like 3 or 4 now young pieces that go ahead of him in that rotation. So Jet's free to just create and score buckets.
Hey, so let me real quick, Damon. Like, why not Grady Dick then? Like, do you think Grady Dick is better than Jet?
Yeah,
or no?
I do think Grady Dick
Okay.
would have been a better
Okay.
selection here, but just in
I
terms
think it
of
was the suit.
sucks of it all.
Hey,
Well, I love this dude.
Whoa. He's repping Kansas, Sean. I'm not gonna take this. Laz
Okay.
already.
I love the Grady suit.
Laz tried to come at me already.
I think we ought to say it. Someone's got to say it. The last Michigan forward that the Magic drafted a little higher than people thought turned out pretty well. Franz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So he
mean,
wasn't supposed to
what a
go
core
as
they
high as
have
he did.
too.
Yeah,
Isn't
Magic are
Jets'
looking
game
at it.
predicated on not being swallowed up by superior athletes? Like, I don't see how it translates. He's not going to have those opportunities.
Look, admittedly, I haven't done a lot of Jet Howard stuff, so someone else will have to take over. But is he a guard or a forward?
He's a wing.
Brady's here.
Brady at the airport.
What time zone are you in?
I'm still in Detroit, so no time change yet.
The beautiful
Davenport.
Detroit International Airport, one of the best airports in the country.
Yeah, gate 74 if you're around.
I say you look like you're by
I'll head right
yourself
up.
complete. Like, is there anybody else in there?
They might be around. I don't know. There's some people.
So, Brady, what's
So
your
what's the
thoughts on
Asar
pick?
take, Brady?
So so he was always in my group of guys I'd be happy with, and I think the last 24, 48 hours I've really thought about it deeper. I think it was Laz tweeted this, but if the goal was to take a shot and go for the fences, I think despite Asar's warts with the shooting and stuff, everything else, I can see it. I can see how the best case scenario works with him, and I can see how he fits, and I like it. And I'm not sure it's going to happen. I don't know if he's going to become the guy that we want him to be, but I really like taking the shot, and I think that's worth it at this point because I hope to God we never pick this high again, at least in not the next 10 years.
When's the last time the
that's
Pistons had a defensive prospect at that level?
Sekou Doumbouya.
Whoa.
Jack.
I'm joking. Sorry.
You
I
need, to
love
take a,
Sekou.
you need to take a shot, Jack.
I would say theoretically, the most recent example would be Stanley Johnson, but I think if you're really going to go back and look at someone who had extreme length and stuff, it might be Tayshaun Prince. That might be the last wing defender that they drafted who you could project immediately as that's going to be his strength, because nobody knew Tayshaun Prince would have the back down game and the eventual corner threes and stuff, the original 3-and-D player that he became. But when he was drafted for his physical traits in terms of his octopus arms and his length and his defensive ability. And so obviously he's a much different player, but that's probably the last guy I can think of who's defense first,
I think that's a good comparison point too, because Stanley Johnson is a good NBA defender to this day. He was a good defender in Detroit, but it was because he was so sturdy and strong. He didn't envelop you. He didn't make you change direction. He just wouldn't let you push him out of the way. So the way they use their defensive abilities are just different. And I feel like Asar brings an opportunity to really force a team to work around sort of that wing defense to get their offense going in a way that Detroit hasn't had in a very long time.
Yeah, no, just to chime in with something else with Asar, I think his athleticism does clearly give the Pistons another transition threat. His defensive ability can turn defense into offense really quickly, which I think is another huge plus that he's going to bring to this roster.
Does anybody know the pace that I know Monty Williams' Suns teams probably played a very methodical pace because Chris Paul just defaults to that. But I wonder what the Suns pace was in non-Chris Paul games and those big stretches he missed, because I feel even
so
in the playoffs
Monty's first year was the year before Chris Paul came to Phoenix, and they were a top 7 pace, I want to say. So, you use the talent that you have. So, obviously,
Right.
when Chris Paul comes to town, you play slow because you want to play Chris Paul's style. But like, I don't think he's allergic to that. Maybe he would even prefer it if he didn't have like Chris Paul in tow.
But is Cade Chris Paul like that type of player?
I was going to say, does Cade mean that they need to play
Yeah.
slow? He's definitely a little more half court inclined.
I will jump in real quick to say in the playoff games, each of the last few years when Chris Paul would be out by then, and you know the keys got handed to Devin Booker or in some cases Campaign, the pace always took a big jump forward, especially when it was a guy like Campaign who's just this frenetic kind of ball table setter, and it always looked better when the pace was faster because it encourages more of that 0.5 element that we've talked about some already. And I do think that with guys like Ivy and Asar, even alongside Cade, who's a bit more methodical than those other two, I do think that Monty might turn to a quicker pace because of those elements.
How do we think that this selection of Asar affects free agency at all? Like, do you think the Pistons still throw a big offer at Cam Johnson? If not Cam Johnson, go after someone like Oubre Jr. Like, I still think they need wings.
I don't think this draft pick has any impact on what the Pistons will do because they'll still want to fill those rotation spots. They'll still not want to rely on a rookie, and Asur is sort of interchangeable enough to Bryce's point, that Hami style. Like, you just throw him on the floor with a group of guys and see if he can sort of use his inherent skills to impact the game and figure the game out.
Well, interesting. Hamadou, do you think now? I think maybe the pick of Asar affects Hamadou. I don't know if he was planning to re-sign or that sort of thing. I know this is just a move around the margins, but I feel like having both those guys, I can't see them both fitting into a rotation. Brady, you look like you want to say something.
Sorry, I had a really loud luggage cart going by. No, I think Hami in that little stretch he had from like February till his injury and the way he played and like the control he showed finally in his game, I think that kind of priced him out of the range that I'm sure the Pistons would like to keep him around because he was never going to be a starter. They never treated him that way. He was obviously just that spark plug off the bench, and I feel like he was going to go find a bigger deal somewhere else where he could get a bigger role. But I think that is a good comparison, like a loose comparison for rookie Asar. But I think even beyond that, like Hami doesn't pass. Like, I mean, I think he passes, but I don't think he passes to try and like make something happen. He passes because he has to pass, because he gets himself in trouble. So I think Asar, and I don't, that's the one part of his game where like the stats, I can see the 7 assists per game, but like, I don't know if like, I know he's not as good a playmaker as Amen, but like, is he, is he going to be able to be a playmaker like that or even half of that this year? That I'm not really sure about.
He's a really good playmaker for that role, though, right? Like, if you're trying to, evaluate him as a point guard, it's like, oh, okay, I don't know. But in the Hami-ish wing role, Andre Iguodala, like, he's a good playmaker that way. And so, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. Like, you hit it on the head, Brady. You can't. I was like, man, you should play Hami as a small ball 4 and let him short roll and make decisions. And it's like, well, that's actually stupid because Hami can't actually make those decisions. So it was like a really bad idea by me that I just like to talk about. But you can really do that with Asar. And again, Asar's a little bit taller, even more bouncy. Like, put his ass in the dunker spot and let him just be explosive down there until he figures out some of this other stuff. I think what's nice is you don't have to rush the 3-point shot to be there day one. I was on my phone answering some stuff. What picks have I missed?
So I just wanted to jump in. Yeah, Derek Lively was picked at 12. So correct me if I'm wrong, but that pick, he's going to Dallas.
So essentially they went back 2 spots and got the guy everybody said that they should draft.
They got the center they need.
They got rid of a bad contract. That's a really nice move from Dallas, to be honest.
So Derek Lively.
Over there, Kaysen.
Fair point.
Well, so Derek Lively, he feels like one of the guys that rose up draft boards in the past few weeks. So I guess, Blake, give me a couple of minutes on Derek Lively. Sell me on him.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely has. I am still surprised that he is going over like Cam Whitmore and even Grady Dick, but I mean, he's going to come in immediately and be a front court presence. I mean, I think it's a super interesting move for Dallas. Like Bryce said, that's probably who they wanted at 10, and just to get in, move back a couple spots, offload a bad contract. He'll come in and just be a strong front court presence for them. Like Dallas picks up the best center not named Victor Wembanyama, if he even is a center in the class. So I like the move for them.
For sure. And at this stage, who are you guys more surprised at dropping this far, Dick or Whitmore?
Cam Whitmore. I mean, again, like I know I'm protecting myself a little bit right here because I've already tweeted out this is going to be my biggest miss in NBA draft history, I hope. But like Sam Vecini had this kid 3. Like Sam Vecini, I don't know what everybody thinks about him, but I feel like he's pretty well respected, you know? So,
I mean, to me, that points to the fact that there's only so much you can evaluate from a distance, and this player with this talent only falls this far if there's something that you learn up close. So, like,
and he's more connected than any of us, right? Like, who's more connected in this space than Sam Vecini? So there's no chance the rest of us were going to get it. So, but you're right, Sean. It has to be so bad that this is a crazy fall. I mean, I'm sure there's been worse, but I don't know. Like this seems dramatic.
Do you know where he was on Gavoni's board?
Gavoni eventually moved him to 9, right? Yeah.
I mean, if he falls out of the lottery, like that's wild.
So he had a broken foot, right? And like, I know that like broken feet, like that's always the thing that when we think about, I always think about Zydrunas Ilgauskas because he was like the like one of those cases where like a dude who just broke his foot over and over and over, and it kind of scared you. And eventually he like found a way to overcome it and become a really good player. But like, I wonder if it's like something with, it might be like, you know, between the ears too. Like we don't know that stuff, and we're never going to know that stuff unless somebody decides to leak it. But like, all you can kind of say right now is that like, his foot must have some huge red flags. Like that's the only thing I can think of, because like even once we get to, I think through the top 10 picks, like I can kind of understand the logic for all of them. Like Koulibaly, I'm sure we talked about before I joined, like that was crazy, but I understand that for the Washington like long rebuild. But still, like something has to be a massive red flag with him for this to happen, because like we're approaching the point where like he's going to fall to a team where he doesn't have to play, and it's going to be like the steal of the draft, you know?
Well, it's interesting because Bryce, you mentioned some of the stuff that that there was things going around about the Villanova coaching staff not having the best things to say about him, but those conversations would have been ongoing for a couple of months, wouldn't they? That sort of intel from NBA teams.
Yeah, I mean, I think what it really comes down, Sean kind of said it. I think probably I would assume what people did is like what a lot of us did is you give him the benefit of the doubt, right? Like maybe Neptune was in over his head. Maybe the Villanova environment was awful. I mean, I sent it to Wes. I only sent it to Wes and Omari, but I have a video of like the coaching staff. You can just tell how much they disliked him with their reactions to multiple plays within a game. Like every time he would take a shot or make a decision, like you could just see it. And so again, you give him the benefit of the doubt because we want these young kids to succeed. And then my guess is he went into interviews or whatever, and it showed that it probably had way more to do with him than anything else. On top of, like you said, Brady, it's got to be something with the medicals. I don't think that alone does it. Like, to me, this is the perfect storm of a couple different things, enough other guys in the tier that people like, and it's got to fall soon, though, right, guys? Like, at some point, it's worth the risk.
Well, Grady Dick's just been selected with pick 13 to the Raptors. So New Orleans are up at 14 with the last pick in the lottery. So
he was just wearing a Raptors jacket the whole time.
And New Orleans couldn't take Whitmore then because of Zion having some of the similar medical issues.
The thing with Whitmore, I think, is this is like a greater thing about Whitmore, I think, and Bryce, you kind of hit on it with the coach Neptune, is that like there's this aura of like the Villanova guy, like all of them are the same archetype and they succeed for the same reasons. And like I don't know anything about, you know, Kyle Neptune and how they do things there now, But obviously, there's something different from when Jay Wright was there to now, and maybe Whitmore's just the unfortunate or whatever you say, first person to kind of be part of that, like, oh, this isn't like your dad's Villanova, or even your your 2-year-old, the brother that's 2 years older than you, brother's like, Villanova. That's just kind of the situation where it's just not the same culture, it's not the same, system, environment, everything, and it's kind of like, would Jay Wright have brought this guy there? I don't know. Maybe that's the thing that we're missing.
That's what I was going to say. If Jay Wright was the coach for Villanova this year, my guess is we wouldn't have been giving him the benefit of the doubt. Like, I almost feel bad now that I'm like, I kind of blame Kyle Neptune, and it obviously wasn't Kyle Neptune. But if it was Jay Wright, I'd probably been like, hey, like, this is a Hall of Fame coach. This is probably more on Cam Whitmore than it is on the coaching staff. And, we don't know any of this for sure, but just judging by the slide that he's gone on, there's, there has to be something to it. And I know we've said it over and over, unless it's just something with the medicals.
Do we know who recruited Cam at Nova?
So I had someone tell me he was playing for a coach that didn't recruit him, but this was Neptune's second year, right?
So I think it was his first or second, yeah.
If it was his first year, then that's very well maybe the case. But if it was his second year, then that doesn't make sense. These kids sign way early, but you can also get out of this stuff. So
guys, I just wanted to jump in here. There's been a couple of questions just about the Pistons moving up and has Troy lost his mojo. For me, I don't.
Tough crowd.
Look, I don't think there's a need to bring in another 2 to 3 young guys. Like, this team, like, I get maybe if they trade back to take Cam, I'll be like, cool. But like, I don't think there's a great incentive into bringing like another 3 rookie guys into this team. That's just my thoughts. What are your guys' thoughts?
I mean, I ask myself, like, are there any, because some people went before people were anticipating, are any of those offense first prospects falling in a range where maybe it makes sense to try and add their shooting? Like, who are the guys that are in that 18 to 26, range, who have really plus offensive profiles that maybe Detroit should be curious about?
Deontay George, but like, they don't need a guard like that. They don't need someone like that. I mean, the name that we saw the other day pop up that, like, I think, as far as I know, he hasn't gone yet, is Hood Schifino from Indiana, who, like, I don't think that name would be mentioned as much as it was it yesterday or 2 days ago, unless there was some sort of interest there. But like, at the same time, I personally don't see that fit. I don't understand that. I wouldn't understand that pick, but I would think if they're going to come back up to get someone, maybe it would be that guy, just because we have heard so many kind of connections back to him.
Yeah, and just to add another name, like, I haven't seen as much chatter about this guy, but like Jordan Hawkins from UConn, just to go in and add a shooter. Like, Bryce, I know he's your guy.
You see me perk up there?
Bryce just lit up then.
It's the auto reaction whenever I hear Jordan Hawkins. I can be doing anything, and all of a sudden I perk up a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean, like, he's just, probably the best off-ball movement shooter in this class, and I don't know. I'm a little surprised at like how little chatter he has had leading up to the draft. But if the Pistons are serious about moving up into that like 18 to 25, 26 range, I would try to target him.
So where are we at? We're at 14. Is that right?
Yeah.
Again, I don't have a TV screen, so I'm the Pelicans.
Yeah.
By the way, I looked into the Whitmore recruiting thing a little. Sometimes those sites like 247 will list who recruited him for the college. They don't have one listed for Villanova, but I know it was Neptune's first year this past year, and he was promoted from within. So he was on Jay Wright's staff. So he might have been one of the guys that recruited him, but just hard to really get any certainty on that.
Yeah.
So we know that New Orleans was like head over their heels for Scoot, and it seemed like they were willing to go get him, but they couldn't, meet the price that maybe Portland was asking. Like, and I know Case and Lawless is already off the board, which that's I feel like that's a perfect fit for Oklahoma City too. But like, is it guard that they're gonna go with here? Like, I'm just trying to think of where their holes were, because they have like Alvarado, and they have like Herb Jones. They have these like gritty like Miami Heat role player type dudes, but like what are they missing aside from Zion being healthy for 82 games?
I think I took Buffkin. I had my guy Matt Issa ask me to do a little write up, and I said, well, if Lively's there, they take Lively to give them some big man depth. And then I talked about some shooting and stuff like that, but I think I ended up saying like Kobe Buffkin. I think you mentioned Jalen Hood-Schifino. I don't know if you're talking about Detroit or the Pelicans specifically, but I think they end up with one of those guards. I wonder if we start to get a run on those guards: Keontae George, Buffkin, Jalen Hood-Schifino. Nick Smith Jr. is probably
the Pelicans have plenty of like wing versatile defense or defense first players, so they just need something to kind of supplement that to play sort of multi-positional lineups. So they need to just grab a scorer.
Bryce Sensabaugh might be fun.
I read that he has an injury, and that's why he's been like not doing or faring well in mocks, because like I've seen him at 31, and I think that would be like a great little grab for the Pistons to go get him at 31 and just load up on wings again, because like I mean a freshman like that who scores like he did in the Big Ten, like I would be down with that in the second round, but like I feel like a team in the 25 to 30 range probably sees the same benefits at that point for them,
All right, the pick is in. Adam Silver is who have we got?
I know Cam is sort of going to be the talk of the rumor mill for a bit. There you go. There's your guy.
Cook, Bryce.
No, you guys don't want me to get started. Best shooter in the class. I'll leave it at that. Best shooter in the class. Now, Jordan is one of those where I spent so much time evaluating him this year for stuff that I'm probably too high and I'm too biased, because it's just like I don't give the same attention to every prospect that I gave to him. And I just think he's that type of shooter, the off ball. And I think there is more to his game. But again, that's because I've watched everything. I think when he gets a little stronger, he'll be at least a neutral defender. And I think he can leverage that to get to the rim. And again, when he gets stronger, then hopefully he finishes better. So there's definitely some things he's got to get better at. But, man, the kid can shoot the ball.
Hey, he was a lottery pick, so you were spot on, Bryce. And, I mean, I don't mean to harp on it, but Cam Whitmore has officially fallen out of the lottery, which is just crazy to me.
So what I was going to say, what I'm seeing on Twitter, and I'm going to say take it with as much of a grain of salt as you want, people are attributing it more to medicals than to personality. So just to say, like, what's motivating teams is lack of faith in like long-term health, as opposed to allegedly.
Didn't Wasserman say essentially teams overcompensate for medicals, and this might be another situation? I saw one of those guys tweet something like that, and then somebody else.
Yeah, that was one of them. I saw.
That's for our viewers. Can someone just remind me and the viewers just of the injury history? So was it a foot injury to open?
This is why it's surprising. I don't think this is like the reason. Part of the reason he missed the season was his hand.
Okay. So
like I don't think this is the foot was Derek Whitehead.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
Derek had 2 foot things.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Derek missed the start of the season, and then remember he went down in a game. Everybody thought it was an Achilles, but it ended up just being like a re-injury or something. So like that's why this stuff is interesting with Cam. Is it's not something that like we really knew coming into all of this, because it was the hand thing. It was a shooting hand, but he played through it. So
yeah,
could be like respiratory. Maybe
it was
like something a little deeper than just like broke. Because somebody tweeted like his mom said he broke his tibia twice or something like that. But I'm like, I mean, what? I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy to me.
Yeah,
Kyle,
it's just like.
Okay, can I touch on this real fast? Like, if they compared him overall to Rip Hamilton, I would assume the comparison is with how he runs off screens, because that is what Jordan Hawkins is known for. Obviously, that's what Rip was known for as well. So I would assume that's where that comparison is coming from.
I
Brady?
feel like for people that are this is gonna age me, for people who are like older, like us 30 plus people, it's always the guys running off screens are like the Reggie Millers and Rip Hamiltons. And for people who are like in their 20s, they are the comparison is always Clay Thompson. Just because there's only so few guys who do that nowadays in the NBA and really make a living off like movement off ball and not, pounding the rock a million times to create something. But like I think everything we said about Hawkins is great. And I think the one thing that like kind of goes, and it's not, it doesn't always impact you in the NBA, but I always look at a guy, and if you were like the best player on a championship winning team, like that matters. Like Connecticut has had a lot of guys boosted up the draft boards because they just happened to be the best player on, a title team. Like it happened with Shabazz Napier, who probably wasn't a first round pick, and then he went out and won a championship, and there he was. But yeah, I just think Hawkins is like high floor. Like I don't see much of a way where he doesn't stick around for 10 years, even if it's just as like at worst, like Anthony Morrow off the bench,
Anthony Morrow. Wow.
That's a blast from the past.
I was about to
I
say, I
will
haven't
say,
heard that
Bryce,
name in a long time.
Rip Hamilton led the NBA in 3-point shooting one year. Sounds very Jordan Hawkins-esque.
I say Jordan Hawkins may do the same. Why do I need to pay attention? What am I doing? I promise I'm working. I'm on my phone because I'm working. I promise.
Rip Hamilton led the NBA in 3-point percentage, shooting like 1.7 per game. I remember that.
All right.
And I think they were literally off the corner.
Yeah.
Is there anyone you would want? Like, who's still on the board you're hoping falls?
Falls to 31, or just someone that
like what are the names or matches where you're like, oh, if this guy gets past this team, maybe he falls to 31?
Sure.
I think
Such a weird draft.
Yeah, I think of the names that are still there, like we just talked about him, but Bryce Sensabaugh would be one if he does slide that far. The Pistons could benefit from injury concerns there. So yeah, he's the one that I am seeing that's sort of in like that top 5 still best available guys, but who knows how far he'll actually slide.
What do you guys think about GG? What do you guys think about GG?
I'd
you go there?
I would.
I mean, it'd be another big swing. It wouldn't be like a safety pick after taking a big swing at 5.
I'm gonna promote the hell out of that tweet I sent this morning or whenever it was. If they end up with the SAR and GG, I'm taking victory laps for days with that tweet.
Kobe Buffkin at 15 to the Hawks, by the way.
Man.
And that just seems like more of what Atlanta already has. Is that right? I mean, is that Kobe Buffkin?
DeJounte.
Well, what's the scout on Kobe Buffkin?
He does everything really well, and there's no huge negatives.
On both ends?
I think he's really freaking good defensively. But he is skinny. Like, that could cause some problems.
Is he like one of those combo guards that...
I think he's a combo.
Yeah.
Like but the kind of combo guard where he's forced to play point guard because of size, but can't really do point guard things? Or okay.
No, I think he can do point guard things. I also think that he's going to end up, if he ends up strong, like putting on weight and strength, then he can also play like the 2 and defend 2s and stuff like that as well. So I think Kobe Buffin's really good. I am shocked that Jet got drafted before him. Don't put that out, Wes. Whenever I said that Jet Howard wasn't the best basketball player ever.
How are we doing, Wes? I feel like I haven't heard from you.
Push it through. We're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. It's all good.
Is there anyone at 31 you like, or someone you'd like to drop to Detroit?
I mean, yeah, you guys mentioned Gigi. I think that'd be one. I'm curious if there are a few guys in like the mid 20s, if they might try to move up from 31 just to make sure they grab their guy. I mean, that's the type of thing I could see happening. I didn't necessarily think another move up into the lottery for a second pick was all that likely, but maybe moving up 5 or 6 from 31. I mean, I could see if the right guy's there, and maybe that is sensible. Maybe it's Gigi. I like Sasser. That'd be great. Send Killian out, just have him take over that backup role. I'll say
That's
it.
someone. Yes, I would love if Detroit took him.
Well, one of my buddies actually brought up after Boston traded after like the trade last night and they acquired 25. Like, I'm not sure if Sasser would be a name that they target to, because he's one of the more like league ready players in my opinion. So maybe he's someone that they bring in to give them some point guard depth. But I would love to see him fall into the second round as well.
Does Boston need a defensive point guard that, maybe you could package with 31 to go up to that spot?
Maybe.
Troy's taken some guys coming off injury in the past. So, like, where does Dariq Whitehead go? He's an injury guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the foot injury.
Like almost the whole season. And yeah, I think Bryce, on your spaces, that was someone that Matt mentioned. He was really interested in seeing like where they end up. And I do think like Dariq Whitehead has a really interesting like connection with the Pistons. Like he played for Montverde. And Cade has been very public about saying that like Dariq Whitehead has played the most high level basketball of potentially anyone in this class, which is a huge statement to say. So if he's there, like that's another name too.
At 31?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think I had him number 3 coming into the season. Like,
yeah,
I just thought he was really, really good.
Same.
And then, the medicals are going to play a big part of that as well, though. I mean, as we were talking about earlier, the foot thing, you better make sure that that's going to be good and not lingering, and probably wonder if the explosion is going to come back a little bit, because he did look hampered whenever he played, but he shot the crap out of the ball.
Dariq is one of my favorite guys in the whole class. I'm right there with you.
Are there any red flag guys who you are basically like well thought of but sort of off your board for whatever reason, that it would be a big bummer if the Pistons took at 31?
In the top, with pick 5, it was Asar Thompson for me. But I'm all in. I'm all in now. At 31, I don't really have one.
You know who I'm a little lower on is Ryan Rupert. I don't buy the defense as much as everybody else does, and that's kind of got to be his thing. Now, Coach Spins reminded me last night that Ryan Rupert is only 18, and there's a lot of growth there. So at 31, it's probably still worth it. I wouldn't be mad about it, but my guess is there'd still be other guys on the board that I would rather take. So I think there's going to be three or four guys that we're really excited about.
That's like Killian Hayes 2.0.
Yeah, except he's on the wing. So
okay.
Yeah.
Can he score?
Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, for like just the sake of like throwing another name out there, like Andre Jackson Jr. from UConn. I mean, he's a great defensive player. The big concern is like his on the offensive side of the ball. Like there were situations at Connecticut where defenses just left him alone. So I don't know if that's someone that the Pistons would want to bring in. He would bring some positives on the defensive side, but offense is a concern with a guy like that.
Are we talking Amen Thompson concerns of shooting, or more Hamidou Diallo with Jackson? Andre Jackson?
Yeah,
way more. Like definitely way more than Asar, I would say.
What about Amen?
More.
Okay.
I mean, the thing with that
That's
is
like,
I don't trust Andre Jackson to shoot at all. Like, I think it's like Hami just don't shoot and figure out how to make things work without being able to shoot, would be my guess.
Gotcha. Well, maybe Troy takes him. This roster. Who? Let's just go through this Pistons roster right now. What guys do we have on the roster that are shooters outside of Bojan Bogdanovic?
Burks.
Alec
Livers, theoretically.
I'd say 12 months ago, I would have made a real strong case for Livers, but I learned my lesson.
So Livers, I think, shot 36% last season. But if that's your bread and butter and that's the main thing you're bringing, I can see how that's a bit of a concern.
And maybe
Corey
Cade.
Joseph's probably not going to be back.
Nope, Cody's
Probably
probably
not
not
Cade.
back.
Right.
Isaiah Stewart, when he's healthy, allegedly.
Yeah.
So
Buddy
Keontae
Boeheim.
George.
He pay how
Did you
many
say Buddy Boeheim? Oh, man. I shouldn't clown Buddy. He's played more NBA games than any of us.
Fair enough.
All right, Keontae George, pick 16 to the Jazz. So Cam Whitmore.
What's a reasonable expectation for Jaden Ivey year 2 3-point percentage?
I think 35%.
I just want the unguarded catch and shoot numbers to stay good. That's literally all I care about. If he can continue to knock down the unguarded catch and shoots like he did this year, then I feel really good about it. I'm more worried about Cade. Not worried, like more interested with Cade. Like I believe in Cade, but I believe in Cade, and Nathan just said it, because I'm just sold that it was the leg. If he doesn't shoot well for 82 games this year, like I'm going to start to get a little nervous.
I mean, in his rookie year, he missed. I mean, he wasn't efficient, but in year 2, for the brief time he played, he missed short every single time, which just tells me he wasn't healthy. Like it was the same miss every single shot, and he compensated by trying to become a mid-range specialist, knowing that he was kind of hobbled, but not really saying it. So, like, I don't know. Definitely has to improve his three-point shooting. Has to be a go from a weakness to very much a strength. But like, I'm not going to hold that year 2 lack of improvement against his like overall arc.
No, I agree. I'm the same way, Sean, because like he was so good from the mid range, and then he went to 3, and it was short every single time. It's like there's a lot of reason to believe that was just him struggling to get the lower body energy and momentum to get the shot where it needed to be.
Yeah, a lot of them were flat as well, just as an added thing. Like always, like darts, they were really short and flat. So, I guess. So, do we think actually who shoots better from 3 next season, Cade or Ivy? I think that's more of an interesting one.
I think it's probably going to be.
I think it'll be Ivy.
Yeah,
Cade's going to take more. Like off the ball, ball screen, stuff like that.
Yeah, to me, it's.
Bryce,
Cade has too much responsibility to anticipate the kind of jump you would want to see from Ivy, who has a more limited role.
I was just going to say, Bryce and I have talked about it, but like Cade, almost all of his attempts are probably coming on ball, right? I mean, he's kind of creating his own 3-point looks. That's just naturally going to lead to a lower percentage. I mean, if he's. Hopefully he can get to like 35. That'd be pretty sweet. I could see Ivy getting to league average though, especially if a lot of them end up being catch and shoot. I mean, he's going to be off the ball quite a bit more than he was last year, right? So I would bet Cade or Ivy will shoot better than Cade, at least on percentages.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah. I hate to keep saying it, but I'm just in a bit of shock that Cam Whitmore hasn't been taken. So I believe.
Well, I thought 16 may be a spot just because they, the Jazz have 3 picks.
They had 2.
So
yeah,
and so
the Lakers are up at pick 17. Does it make any sense for them to take Cam Whitmore? We've got Rui.
I think
They
he's-
love a storyline, so that would bring attention.
In fairness to the Lakers, I feel like they've been really good at drafting since like 2018. Like they've found guys in the second round, so it'd be interesting to see who they take regardless.
undrafted free agents, Jack. Undrafted free agents is what they found. My guy Austin Reeves.
What do we think he's getting paid this summer? Just per year figure. No comment from Bryce. That's cool.
I mean, everybody's getting 30 million according to Twitter, so
30 million.
Who are the clutch guys in this class that are still on the board? I know Lively was one.
this one I wish Laz was here. He knows all the clutch guys.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
I think one name for a guy that's made big shots in college is Julian Strawther.
No, I think they're saying agency.
Hey,
Oh gosh,
Hey,
sorry,
LU.
I'm all over the place, guys.
Hey, but I love Julian Strawther, so thank you for throwing that name out, Blake. That's a guy I've been very interested in from the start. Well, sorry, from the end of the college season.
I just saw the pick. It makes sense. They're drafting well.
Who's that?
Is that-
Are you talking Lakers or?
Yeah, Lakers.
Is it Cam Whitmore?
No, it's Jalen Hood Shafino.
Love it.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
Troy's guy is gone.
That's a good pick for them.
Yep.
Enlighten me.
So go ahead. You go.
No, you go for it.
He's extremely it's a little up and down. It's not consistent, right? Offensively, I thought he was pretty good defensively. The game I watched most recently, I thought he was incredible off the ball, like executing scheme stuff. He's kind of a combo-y guy, bigger player, good size. The shooting has to come around. He didn't shoot it great, just like on catch and shoot three stuff. I think he's 33% overall, but he can play with the ball in his hands a little bit, looked really comfortable in the mid-range. So, I think he's just a good combo player, heady, smart, good field, that type of stuff. I think the shooting form looks good. I'm interested to see what Damon thinks because, I think it looks good. I think he'll shoot it better than those percentages, but just a solid player. And like I said, I think he offers some real value defensively also.
Yeah, I do like the shot more than it gets credit for as well. We talked about it with Tariq, but Jalen's also a Montverde guy. And when you play for those big prep schools like Montverde or IMG, like Jarris did, that goes a long way for me just because it's like extending the window of competitive basketball that you played. Just because the schedules that those schools play is so much more rigorous than what your average high school is going to play. And so I think it really put him in a lot of situations where he had to make big plays in big moments. And he's also a really good defender for his position. And even if the shot doesn't come around, he's still got enough going for him on offense that, his size for his position and all that can really make a solid player, especially when you have time to develop.
Do you think he cracks the Lakers rotation as a rookie early?
Not early, at least. Maybe around deadline time when the Lakers go through their annual cycle of we've figured out all the players who can't play for us. Now it's only players who are good now. And so it might be one of those situations, but yeah, not off the bat, I don't think.
For sure.
So I looked it up. The
Real
clutch. Oh, sorry. I was going to say the clutch clients: Nick Smith Jr., Noah Clowney, Chris Livingston.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Chris Livingston was the one who maybe the Lakers promised a two-way deal to already or something like that.
Oh, I could see that.
He was shutting down
wanted to bring
workouts.
this up from Kyle, just because. I mean, I know he kind of said it as a joke, but this is something I could actually see happening. I mean, the Pistons, I believe, don't have a ton of future second round picks. I mean, and they I could see them not really wanting to bring in
I mean,
another 20-year-old.
I felt like with this class, people were bailing on the second round pretty early because it's shallow class. We got a future Piston in the shot there. So I feel like if they had a good sense they weren't going to see a player they wanted at 31, they probably would have sold their pick already because everybody else kind of already ditched to the people looking for extra capital. So I think they're going to make a pick. But yeah, I mean, you should never be afraid to trade a second round pick for future, like multiple future picks. Like the hit rate on seconds is so low. Just take a chance. And then when you see that guy you really like, you trade 3 future seconds to pick him and just hope it works out. Like
scenario. Pistons trade back into the first round around pick 24, 25, and Cam Whitmore's still on the board. Do you take him? Because if he's still out on the board, that's pretty concerning.
I mean, it's again, what's the reason for the fall? The medicals versus the personality stuff. Right. Troy Weaver's already proven he's not afraid to take somebody with medical issues and buying low to let them get healthy through the rebuild. They're not so far along in their rebuild they can't get a guy and stash him for a rehab year. But if he fell because of personality issues, like, I mean, that's the Troy Weaver mantra is you got to bring in the right kind of people, good, like, upright citizens, however he wants to, define it. He's trying to get his kind of personality into the room. And if Cam Whitmore is going to be a top 4 talent and fall to 24 because of a personality conflict, that just means to me like he's off Troy's board.
Yeah. Sure. Doug throws in an interesting comment here. Are you guys aware, according to Real Jam, that Detroit will get Washington's second round pick in 2024?
It's a good time to have the Washington pick.
Is that from a prior trade?
I mean, it could be from like four trades involving, a million circuitous routes.
For sure.
Miami taking Cam Whitmore here would just be really funny.
That would be
one name out for 31.
Now I'm written for it.
Chris Murray, if he could keep sliding, I'd be all over that. That'd be huge.
Oh, they got the camera on Cam.
Very intently on Cam.
Yeah, sweating.
I think it's because Woj is giving the breakdown of why he's falling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not on the phone or anything.
Man, imagine having to be there.
Oh, yeah.
Ugh. Like, at least do this in private. Because you're still going to be a millionaire. You're still going to get a chance.
Wes said Chris Murray. I think the second round picks, we send ours to New York, but we get the more favorable of Memphis and Washington's. Which, like the routing of that is insane.
Yeah. Trying to track the ownership of second round picks is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
To workouts, so not medical, just poor workouts in general.
He mentioned medicals too, but he also threw really poor individual workouts with teams.
Oh, Woj said that?
Man.
Wow.
It sounded like it. Maybe I misheard him, but that's what I thought.
Kyle throws out Houston as a potential Whitmore spot. That does feel very plausible.
What pick do Houston have? What's their next one?
20.
In the 20, okay.
They had 420.
It would fit Houston. Sort of fits their drafting mantra.
I mean, do you think Golden State would be? Do you think Golden State would be gun shy about an iffy personality?
I think maybe if Kuminga worked out a little better, they wouldn't be as scared to take a swing now because at this point, that's all it is. It's a swing, right?
Is this how Portland at 23 tries to argue that, yeah, they didn't trade for a veteran, but they got two top 5 rookie talents in the class?
Man, Cam, Scoot, and Sharp, just on athleticism alone.
Ooh.
Can I
Thick as in.
when I was watching, so just with Cam Whitmore, like when I was watching film and stuff, like his finishing numbers are really good. But was anyone concerned that a lot of his finishes that weren't dunks were like, I don't know how to put it, but he was sort of, it felt to me like he was sometimes below the rim. Like jumping off 1 foot, I'm not sure was a strength for him.
Yeah, well, and I think some of his stuff too just turned into like he would bully the defender, right? And anytime I see that, I'm like, okay, is he going to be able to do that against NBA guys? Like there was definite, even without this stuff, like ceiling floor stuff with Cam Whitmore, so. But man, like I just thought his first step was stupid. Like I thought it was silly. So
it's like Jamie Hawkeyes Jr. to the Heat. Is that like the most perfect relationship pick of the draft, like team and player?
Yeah, Babcock actually had that in his mock today. And what I've heard talking to people is Hawkeyes has crushed the pre-draft process.
Yeah,
like just
I thought he was going to end up in the lottery. I thought he was going to get scooped up by like OKC or something.
Teams are realizing it's good to draft good basketball players.
Not all teams. There's the Pistons.
Yeah. If Detroit select at 31, I don't know who it is, but that's why I would rather than just take someone who's a senior, 3 years of college, something like that, and is just a proven prospect rather than a swing.
I'm with you. I'm with you a little bit there, Jack. With what they did with the SAR, like I think Amari mocked Jaime to the Pistons early on, in one of his articles. And the more I thought about it, the more I liked it. You get somebody that's a little older and going to be ready to play right away. So,
all right. So we have Houston up next. I mean, Kyle's
Golden State first.
A lot of things.
Golden State at 19.
Oh, my bad. My mistake. Lucky you guys are keeping check.
Is there anyone in the rest of the first round that could move a pick? Is there anyone rumored to be interested in trading out? Or did Indiana kind of do all their moves already and everyone else kind of made their...
I mean, Brooklyn does it. Go ahead.
I wouldn't be surprised if Indiana still moved 26, just because like that's a lot of young talent to have. But yeah, Brooklyn at 21 and 22, is it? Might be better.
Yeah, I don't. Well, I was just saying, I don't know what they would do there. Like, if anything, you probably would have wanted to package those to move up, but I guess you could take one there and then maybe move back and get other asset to add on.
I think some teams trade, those 22 to 30 picks with a team that they're thinking is going to land in like the 9 to 14 range in a future year. Just kind of move up in the draft that way if they're willing to be patient.
Well, just looking at it, Brooklyn have a pair of back-to-back picks at 21, 22.
Yeah.
Maybe they could move those.
And if Golden State gets Podziemski right here,
I was just thinking the same thing, especially after trading away Poole. Like,
yeah.
I mean, another guy who like crushed the combine and his pre-draft process, from what I've heard. So I wouldn't be shocked if he goes here.
Does this just make it like a redshirt year for him?
Too. A little bit, yeah.
Would he actually play?
On the nights where Chris Paul or whoever else is out of the rotation for whatever reason, yeah, I think so. He could do a lot right off the bat.
I wonder if they see Leonard Miller as more of a big and they try to add him to the mix.
Yeah, he was another guy that had sort of rocketing up the charts buzz for a hot minute, and then I guess things kind of settled.
Vecini had him in the lottery.
I had him in the lottery.
Did you? Yeah, I mean, he had a crazy into the G League season. He was really good.
Like 18-10, right?
Yeah, I think even more, maybe points wise. But I think one thing Vecini always talked about was he just was a really good learner. Like, you know, you tell him something once, he figures it out. He watches film, he figures it out. He kind of reshaped his game a little bit too. I mean, like coming out of high school, he was like the dude that handled the ball and created. And now he's a little bit more of this like undersized big who does all the little things. So, I mean, good for him. But
just the steepest development curve ever coming back from Fort Erie and all that.
Oh my gosh, I watched some of those games up in Canada. I was like, what the hell is this? This looks like kids that I coach other than Leonard Miller's on the floor, who's a top recruit in North America. I was like, this doesn't make any sense. I might be the second best player on the floor if I went and joined the game.
Quick Pistons question. I know we've still got free agency to play out, but looking at the roster and just looking at previous drafts, first round picks have typically started, or the top 10 picks have typically started right away. Do you think Monty Williams would consider starting Asar Thompson?
I'm just thinking about that question.
Damon, I want Damon. Go ahead, Sean.
I was just going to say, I would almost, considering the talent makeup, I would be afraid not to start him, because if you throw him on the bench, there's not a lot of offensive firepower on that bench, and sort of you're leaning into everybody's weakness.
Yeah, I would just start him and play him with Boyan. I think that actually makes a lot of sense. I mean, you're a little bit small, but Damon, maybe you have a little more insight into just Monty in general. Not that the Suns ever had these high draft picks. Well, I guess they did early on in the early days. So,
yeah, that was like before Monty had gotten there. But he likes to play bigger. There were a couple times where he started Ayton with another big. So I wonder if maybe playing Boyan at the 4 might be a little too small for him, especially with the glut of bigs that Detroit has. But if it was me doing it, I would start Asar next to Boyan.
Yeah,
or
that's
do you
what I
just
do
move
too.
both of them to the bench?
Maybe. No, I just.
So I'm factoring in a free agent addition into that equation. Like,
yes,
you sign someone in free agency, you bring your best shooter off the bench so that your non-shooters can kind of play off of that person, and then finishing lineup is whatever you need in the last 6 minutes of the game.
Yeah, I mean, if you get Cam Johnson, then he starts ahead of Asar or Boyan for that matter. But
I'd rather go after your guy, Sean. I think Grant Williams would be a great fit here.
Thank you. Somebody else.
I said
you
recently,
can play defense. He's a good processor. Like,
I get crushed for saying Grant Williams would be a good signing every single time I mention it.
I give him a 1-year overpay and see how it goes.
For sure.
Grant Williams.
Especially
I'm not
now
even
with
sure
the
an
star.
overpay would be that much.
No, you're right. Like at this point, the market's
would.
way lower, right? I mean, so.
Sorry, I'm just looking at the broadcast. Pochemski is the pick for Golden State.
Yep.
Right on the money.
Man.
Yeah, these draft stuff, tell you what, we're lucky here, DBB. They're all over it.
And also, Woj tweeted that Houston is strongly considering ending Cam Whitmore's slide at 20, whatever that means.
He had to come out of
Decision
retirement.
moving,
He had to
but-
come out of pick spoiling retirement just for that one.
He couldn't help himself.
You guys remember that one year when Woj couldn't like spoil the picks, so he just got creative.
Lasering
with
in
his
on.
tweets.
It was the best.
It was the best year.
Remember when Cam
Really
Whitmore was in play for the Rockets at 4? Do we remember that when Cam Whitmore
Yeah.
was going to go
Uh-huh.
4 to the Rockets and now he's going to go 20? Like what the
I mean,
hell?
I bet Rockets fans are happy.
Good Lord.
I don't know. Knowing Rockets fans, they're probably still upset about something.
All right, this is where I can't talk. So what is the projected like Grant Williams contract versus the projected Kyle Kuzma contract versus the projected Cam Johnson like overpay to steal in restricted free agency contract?
I mean, if I had to guess, I bet you could get Grant at like 15 or 16. It might be even more, but I feel like as a base, that's
And,
the floor
and Cam
of
is
it.
like 26
I mean, yeah,
million,
26,
maybe 4
27.
million.
And Kuzma apparently wants 30, so 30.
Yeah.
I mean, I doubt he'll get it, but he'll at least ask
I
for
mean,
it, right?
I'm not going to say Grant Williams is a great player or going to like put you over the top into contention, but like that's not what the Pistons are looking for or need. Like he's just a talented two-way player that fills a lot of gaps, and you're not going to have to overpay him to get him in town for X number of years.
And he can shoot. He can shoot it well.
And defend.
Exactly.
And defend multiple positions.
Yeah, I think Grant would be. I mean, if they strike out on Cam Johnson, Grant Williams.
I don't know how
awesome
they
player,
don't
right?
strike out on Cam Johnson. Like, I don't think the Nets are in a position to let him walk.
Might be the only one.
Don't
I don't
matter.
even want him to try. I'm really worried about spending too much money. Like, I just do not want to throw out big long-term cash this offseason with the new CBA, Cade extension coming up, Ivy Duren coming up. Like, I'd rather be paying lower amounts.
Okay,
than what
real
Cam
quick
can get.
though. Like
all contracts are short.
But why is Boston just got KP? Like, I don't think Grant Williams is as much in the cards as.
No, rumor was he's out. Like,
yeah, like,
I don't even think you really have to overpay him to get him at this point.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think it's going to be as bad. Like, yeah, I heard someone float out that like maybe they just don't even make him restricted. So, I mean, but yeah, I'm nervous tying up too long as well because you don't even know what you have with this roster yet. I don't know that we know. We all think like we have projections, right? But Duren, do we know? Ivy and Cade have played how many games together? Now you're throwing in Asar, who's a complete wild card, so.
The summer of the 1 year overpay.
I'm cool with it, though. I'm
down
game.
with that.
Yeah.
Cam's a little injury prone,
But
too.
even if you gave him a multi-year deal.
Games the past few years? Like, that makes me nervous.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Sorry, Sean.
Even if you gave Grant Williams whatever he's going to command on a 4-year deal, it's not tying you up. And it's not like there's no such thing as a prohibitively long contract if the dollar amount is less than like $30 million in today's NBA. So like, just if he's the kind of player you think makes sense for your team, like figure it out. Cam Johnson, I think, is almost in the same boat, but you have to pay him so much to get the Nets to walk away. Then you get a little
so
worried.
Kyle, like, how does this work? Kyle, like, can they essentially give him whatever, Kyle? So like, could they go 4 years, 60 million player, team option on year 4, something like that? Like, is that all reasonable? That's 15 a year. I mean, even if you did like 70 million
for Cam.
For Grant, I don't think that gets it done for Cam.
Yeah, no. There it is. Cam Whitmore gets to smile and hug.
Be relieved.
Yeah. Still be a millionaire.
What's his?
This is pretty fun.
I'm trying to think of like the Rockets makeup.
And then
what's their forward
Green,
rotation?
Whitmore, JSJ.
I was gonna say
he
could walk in and start right away if like the medical's clear, and I mean you could start Amin, Jalen Green, Cam Whitmore, JSJ, and Şengün. I mean there's an immediate path to
Do they
playing time
trust
for him.
Şengün as a center long term?
I feel like they fucking love that guy. All I ever hear about is how good he is.
And apparently he grew, right? Isn't that what started that whole
Really?
Twitter thing?
Yeah.
We'll see.
He grew 2 or 3 more inches. And then somebody did it with Hunter Dickinson at Kansas. And Hunter Dickinson walked into Kansas 5 inches taller or something.
I also saw someone say that Cade shrunk, which actually made me laugh a little bit.
That's funny.
The Kendrick Perkins one. Jonathan Kaminga. My sources are telling me he's grown to 7'2".
I love Perk.
Yeah. That was rough though.
Yeah.
All right. You asked about this earlier. So Nick Smith Jr., Sensabaugh, Leonard Miller, my guy Omax. There's, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's going to be a guy there. What do you guys think about Damon Blake, like a Noah Clowney, Trace Jackson Day? Like, since they didn't take Jarris or Hendricks, is there kind of a more forwardy type player that you guys kind of like? Because, I mean, I guess Leonard Miller would fit that mold. Omax could a little bit. Chris Murray. And then, like I say, Noah Clowney. You know, where are you guys at on some of those guys?
Yeah, I mean, for me, just like I would probably lean Clowney of those names. I think he's definitely the most like versatile of the bunch. I also wouldn't hate Jackson Davis. I think like looking at him, it's almost similar to evaluating Jarris Walker. Like he's more of a 4-5 to me than a 3-4. I would be fine with either, but I think Clowney would be the lean for me. I think he should be playing next to a more traditional 5, which the Pistons do have plenty of. So I think they can find like a way to add him into their rotations.
Damon, what about you? Any of those guys kind of?
He's on mute.
Sorry, am I good now?
Yep.
I like Clowney is a big one, like Blake said. But if you want to go a safer route, I totally get going with someone like Chris Murray, just because it's someone you can for sure bank on them doing what you're drafting them to do. Whereas Clowney, it's a little more theoretical. I do think Clowney's one of those guys who fit the NBA game better than the college game too. He's a little bit like lively in that sense for me. A lot of bigs in this class are like that. But a lot of different avenues to go down. Just depends on how you want to attack it.
Do you think when we look back at Troy Weaver's tenure, where do you think him and his love for centers ranks in the memories? Like,
the problem is he's only ever acquired one good one. Like out of all the guys he's cycled through, you know, it looks like
Mason Plumlee was okay.
Get the fuck out of here with Mason Plumlee. I hated watching that guy play basketball.
Really?
He was a plus passer.
He was hard. I didn't like watching him.
He was. No, you're right. He was a good passer.
I don't know how many centers that Troy Weaver has acquired that he actually cares about or is invested in. Like, part of me, Troy Weaver in this rebuild is still just sort of like, well, I know I don't want this, so let me just see what I can get. And he takes what he can get and figures it out later. Like, I don't think he's seriously, significantly invested or cares about James Wiseman or Marvin Bagley at all. And then, you know, all those trades for centers was to free up money year one so he could do whatever he wanted. And then he drafted Jalen Duren, which I love Jalen Duren. I'm glad he did it. So I hope his love of centers is just a precursor to us talking about the fact that he traded for the pick that got Jalen Duren.
His love of centers has also ended up us playing like Eugene Amarui, Hamadou Diallo, and all sorts of other crazy names at the center spot because they didn't even stay healthy. So I don't know. You're right. Jalen Duren hopefully is the one that wins it, and that's all that really matters, right?
For sure. Well, okay, another Pistons question because I love getting everyone's opinions on these. So
Trey Lyles. Yeah, Trey Lyles was the small ball 5. How can I forget about my guy Trey?
I really like Trey Lyles.
Best shot fake in the league.
Literally.
NBA.
Are we going to see a lineup this? Are we going to see a lineup this season where Asar Thompson is the center?
I hope not.
Yeah, I would hope not.
It would be fun to watch.
Maybe if there were a ton of injuries.
I just wanted to go back to Jalen Duren for a second because, youngest player in the league or was the youngest player in the league. Where's everyone at with Jalen Duren, especially going into year 2? What sort of season are you guys expecting and where do you think he needs to improve the most?
Defensively.
I think it's defensive confidence more than it. I mean, it is defensive ability, but I think he was put through the rookie year ringer a little bit, and he kind of was kind of deferred, was kind of unsure, was kind of overlearning what his coaches were telling him. I think it was bad that he started the year fouling every 5 seconds because then he was allergic to contact a little bit, and it kind of played out in some bad defensive tape. I'm still confident he can turn and will turn into a good defender. It's just going to take a little time. And he does so many other things so well. I just want to see him continue getting that steady role and continuing to develop.
Yeah,
Okay,
if you can improve one thing for me on defense, it's that rotational awareness. If that could come up and improve, that'd be huge, just with how athletic he is. And I mean, he does have some level of instinct when it comes to blocking some shots. So if you could really improve that awareness and be a little early on rotations next year, that'd be huge for him.
Yeah, don't mean to change the subject, but Noah Clowney just went off the board, so there that thought goes.
Okay, so yeah, let's stop talking about any of these guys because as soon as we do, they go off the board.
Let's just talk about players we hate.
Okay,
GG Jackson.
Should they take Imani Bates at 31?
It only seems right.
I think maybe they should have taken him at 5, Bryce. I mean,
I would have a worse reaction to that than I had to Jet Howard going 11 or whatever Jet Howard went.
So you're really out on Jet Howard. Are you adding him with the Magic or adding him with that draft selection, or are you adding him overall?
I didn't come away super excited about him. I did a top performance series where I turned on by the box score what players' best game should have been. And I walked away from his best game just I don't really like it. And it's because he doesn't really do anything other than make shots. And I didn't trust any of the other stuff. So, Jack, we just talked about this.
That was me.
Oh. Well, you're the boss, so I can't have the same reaction. But if Omax goes next, I'm going to be pissed. I love Omax, and I would love for him to go to – Jack was like, what? What did I do?
I feel like someone just slapped me through the screen there. I was like, what have I done?
I did not think he was going to – I mean, I don't think he's going to last the 31. I also kind of expected it to be off the board around right now, maybe even before now.
Is there a world where Nick Smith slips? That'd be nice.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a chance. I mean, if you want to replace Killian, you could have Nick Smith. I mean, and looks like Marcus Sasser could still be on the board as well. They're going to have some real options here that are very interesting.
Just on Nick Smith, how much did the injury affect his draft stock as well as sort of the production?
Well, I don't know what you guys think. I think not the injury necessarily, but the injury affected how he played, and that affected his draft stock, if that makes sense. Like where I think Dariq Whitehead's actual injury is probably affecting his draft stock a little bit. I think Nick Smith Jr.'s he just like wasn't like, he just didn't play all that well. And a lot of it had to do with like trying to come in, and he almost tried too hard, if that makes sense, Jack. Like you watch him and he was forcing everything and not letting anything come to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, for freshmen coming into college, it can be really tough if you're behind the 8 ball. And so with guys like Dariq and Cam Whitmore even, and the other one that is slipping my mind right now.
Nick Smith.
Yeah, Nick Smith, sorry. Sometimes you just lose track. They just start behind the 8 ball, and they're not as up to speed as the other guys are, even in their class. And so suddenly they're feeling a little bit out of place. They're not able to practice with their guys. And so that just gives them a little bit of a, whatever the opposite of a head start is, a slow start, I guess.
Got you. Well, according to this is just the Tankathon big board, so take that for what you will. But best players available left are Bryce Sensabaugh, Leonard Miller, Chris Murray, James Nagy, Omax, Nick Smith. Wow, Jed Howard was 27th on their big board. So there's that. But Chris
Did we
Murray's
talk
a
about
guy-
James Nagy? James Nagy,
Yeah.
so that he doesn't get selected by the Pistons.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, not for the Pistons.
Sorry, I was just reading out the board. That wasn't Pistons specific.
There was Jalen Duren comps around him throughout a lot of the process. So, which the more I got to know Najee, I was like, well, no, this isn't very good, because Najee literally can't do anything offensively other than catch a lob, and Jalen Duren can pass and do some other things. But it sounds like Najee's just a monster defensively, though, like really, really good defensively. So
Crazy tools too.
yeah, just raw. Hasn't played a ton of minutes. Julian Phillips is another guy I want to throw out. Like that's my guy that I really like. So
I think more European players need to take that same kind of route that Vic took, where you're not necessarily playing for the most high profile Real Madrids and those types of programs over there, but you're putting yourself in a good position to be set up for success in the NBA. And so I think for Euro prospects whose goal is the NBA, they should really consider taking similar routes to that more often,
where they get that higher usage, like what Victor got.
Yeah. Transferring from SFL to Mets.
Yeah, I mean, it worked, right? Because he got to show off all of these things, all these offensive tools, and another thing, like he helped them win, to get to a the championship, and so I think then it looked, it showed his ability to compete and all of those type of things.
And that's like a program that Brian Windhorst says is maybe about to fold too. So he's
really?
Yeah, their arena is getting taken over by a pro volleyball team, he said. And so he really just took them from like the bottom of LNB Pro A and lifted them up to the next level. Well, him and guys like Koulibaly too, of course.
And I think Michigan State great Aaron Henry plays for that team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to shout him out. Sorry.
I wouldn't have noticed other than I watch on Synergy. So then like his name popped up. I was like, oh, I recognize that name. Like what's going on here? I think one game I turned it on. Who was I? I was watching somebody and Perry Ellis was on the other team. It's like, oh,
Perry Ellis.
hey,
He's still playing.
Yeah. After his 17 years at Kansas. Yeah. He played quite a few years at Kansas, and then now he's playing overseas.
Now, was it 5 seasons at Kansas?
I mean, it was at least 8.
Oh, no.
Dariq Whitehead.
Did the Suns just trade another?
No,
Whitehead.
That was from the KD one.
Well, Dariq Whitehead goes off at 22.
Man, I am really upset with the Nets. Like I was just gonna say, I hope he's the one who slides, but a couple names off the board there.
Yeah, I was hoping the Suns traded up for Dariq. but now I'm kind of mad.
Okay, so somebody said this earlier. Like I've seen a tweet like this is a boring draft, and like have we? So what? Even the trades we had weren't that crazy. All we got was 8-7 Wizards, Pacers,
10-12,
and 10-12 Thunder,
10-12.
Mavericks, and none of those were really anything, right? We got some second round picks with the first one and a
Right.
salary dump in the second one. That's legit?
Yeah.
In
all
both
we've done?
cases, it was so both teams could get the players that people were already expecting them to take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Indiana still got their guy, and Dallas still got their guy. I mean, wow.
So I guess unless you're a Rockets fan, or you're one of those GMs that has a soar above Amen, it's a boring draft.
I mean, I guess like draft evaluations are just getting so good now. Like we all
it's
already
too
know
good.
what's gonna happen.
It's true. The amount of information that's available is increasing every year.
Yeah.
I mean, really, what were the big misses? I don't think people had Bilal quite that high, but I mean, like I said, an hour before, Matt Babcock dropped it on a Twitter Spaces with me. So I mean, like obviously people had found out about it.
It's Jet Howard and it's
and Cam.
and it's Cam. That's it.
Oh, and I think Hawkes was a little surprising for people who aren't tuned into Babcock too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
Yeah, I
barely
wonder-
tuned into any of this stuff, and that's about where I thought he was going.
Well, I wonder what like Vicini and Giovanni had Jaime.
Let me see if I can find it.
Because I think like I know I looked at Babcock's today, and like that was, I mean, he hit that one straight on.
Maybe it was just me then that's behind on that.
No, no. I thought it was a little high. Also, I had heard
okay.
I had heard good things, but I didn't realize it was that good of things.
Gavoni had it. Hawkes at 18 also.
There you go. So,
what's the scout on? How do you pronounce it? Saidi Sissoko?
Saidi Sissoko.
I was looking at that before, sure.
G League night guy.
Right. Like I've
Spence,
seen that name kind of at the top of the second round. Is that somebody to get excited about?
Elite wing defender.
Yeah,
top of the second. Excited about that?
Yeah.
I mean,
Coach Spins loves him. Coach Spins loves him. So that's what's interesting. Like some of these guys that are going to be available at 31 are, like I just said, Julian Phillips, but Julian Phillips is another guy that I'm going to say is a really, really good defender, but there's offensive question marks. Like, do you want to take that guy again if we feel like there's a little bit of that with Asar, or like do you just double down and say we're going to guard the shit out of people?
I mean, it
That'd be a change.
It would be the first time you could say that about a Pistons team. So,
one guy I do like too a lot is Ben Shepherd.
Yeah.
And I had a thing come out on Brightside today about him. He's just like one of the most efficient scorers in the class. If I can't pull it up real quick, he's like 40+% on every single shot you can imagine. Let's see. Yeah, 42.9% on 2-point pull-ups and 48.7% on 3-point pull-ups, which is just insane.
They're like another ultra. I know, like 10, 15 years ago, a Belmont guy. God, I gotta look it up.
Also 49.2% on open catch and shoots.
Like that.
Chris Murray, Portland, stole my guy.
Another guy, the kiss of death.
Hey, maybe that means Jeremy Grant's on the way out. Then you can come back, Wes.
I don't know if he's quite that good.
Yeah, I don't know if he's that good.
So who are like
Leonard Miller was supposed to go quite a bit higher than that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he shouldn't have been sitting here. Leonard Miller? I feel like I was seeing lottery stuff for him.
No, that
No?
was Vicini, but you can find other ones that have him in this range. He was one of those that I feel like had more a wider range.
Gotcha. So what do we think Portland does with Simons now? I mean, him, Dane, and Scoot are all way too small to be trotting out.
I
mean, do they
feel
just
like-
shove them to the bench.
I feel like the writing was I feel like the writing was always on the wall that the best way to placate Lillard was to trade Simons, just because he was the second sort of shooting guard that it obviously wasn't going to work, even as much as they liked each other. So if you're going to show him you're doing something, you got to move Simons. So I think he was out regardless, and now even more so. Like they should try and see if they can rebalance their roster a little bit.
I think Washington would be interested in Anthony Simons.
I mean,
I'm just trying to think of the teams that we know are going to be bottoming out.
With Jordan Poole, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I would like it, but I don't know if they would make a move for a guy like that, not after just acquiring Poole. We have a trade. The Kings are trading Rashawn Holmes and number 24 to Dallas. So Sacramento is picking for Dallas here. I wonder what Dallas.
Oh, there's no wondering needed. Shams is already saying who Dallas is taking.
Okay.
Wait, what is Dallas sending back?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
It's got to be a win now piece, right? For Sacramento.
I would think so.
What does Dallas have excess of?
I mean, it could be what's his name, the center?
Christian Wood.
No. Center from Detroit.
Oh, it's just cap space.
Geographically.
Holmes into the traded player exception created with the OKC trade.
And Sacramento's just creating one of their own?
Is
that how that works? Do they get one since they're not taking back any money?
They just get more space, I think. They get Holmes off the books. So maybe they're planning some free agency stuff.
That's wow.
Pride of Bowling Green
put it past
State
Cuba.
University, John Holmes.
You just 24. You just get rid of Rashawn Holmes. Wow.
So have I just missed a trade?
Yeah.
Yep. Sacramento traded Rashawn Holmes in the 24th pick to Dallas. And it seemed like it was like Sacramento was just clearing up cap space.
I mean, they technically have to send back something, right? Like it could be a second round pick that's 31 through 55 protected or whatever, like what Detroit did.
Yeah.
And the selection is Omax Prosper at Marquette.
Another one off the board.
That is your fault, Sean. That is your fault.
Yeah,
you
take
put
it.
that on the screen, and then we put some bullshit trade into existence that doesn't even involve anybody any good, and now Omax is gone.
It involves Omax, who is good.
Omax is good. You're right. Good point. So he's to Dallas.
To Dallas, yeah.
That's a great pick for Dallas. I love
So
that.
you could run out front courts of Maxi Kleber, Omax, and Lively if you want to.
And then they
Just
also
be
have
super mobile.
a backup center now in Holmes. I like what Dallas has done tonight, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And they got off the Bertans contract, or that's what allowed this to happen, right? So that trade exemption.
Oh, yeah. I'm not legally allowed to say positive things about the Mavs, so. Dang.
Are you hoping they bring back Christian Wood?
I would love for them to bring back Christian Wood. I think that would be very funny. Another trade, by the way. Bucks are acquiring 36 from the Magic, which is a pick that I heard that the Suns were looking to buy up into. So that's unfortunate for me. All these contenders trading into the 30s.
So this lets you know James Jones is still in charge, right? And it's not Isaiah Thomas.
All the Isaiah Thomas noise is just noise. We believe. We think it's all bitterness from Chris on Good Morning America, and we think that it's just James Jones running the show, and Isaiah is someone that Ishbia talks to, but he doesn't have a role in the organization, as far as we know.
For the record, I believe you. I believe that.
Legally.
I don't think Isaiah Thomas has much sway. He's just a rich dude in basketball. Ishbia has been a rich dude in basketball for a while.
Mhm.
What was the trade again? The Bucks came in where?
To 36, Orlando's pick. And terms haven't been announced yet. I assume it's just cash.
We got Detroit news coming. I won't spoil it.
Really? All right.
I will have to log off.
Ooh.
Is it to do with the Celtics? Because I just saw a trade on the thing.
Oh, I just
It
saw
does.
You're welcome, Sean.
Love that.
Can someone just tell me?
Yeah, let's. We can. We're landing the first. Let's just go. Break it, Sean.
The Boston's trading Marcus Sasser draft rights to Detroit for 31.
Let's go. I love that.
Love it.
Love it.
So he was
love
obviously their
that.
target. They didn't think it was going to last.
So from 31 to 25.
What did they give up?
Yeah, so they probably gave up what?
A few
Cash in
seconds?
a second. What's the most you can send a team now? Like 6
I
million?
think it's
Wait, it couldn't be
6.8.
Killian
Word
Hayes
play.
in the trade, could it?
Jack, man, you're just slamming them today.
No, I like Killian. I just,
I mean, he said it. I was thinking it too. Killian's out. This is a first round pick. They picked another first round pick point guard. So where's Killian go?
Yeah.
Didn't you know he plays off the ball now?
That won't be good.
I need to shut up.
All right. I'm going to write another story. I'll be back.
Okay, so just confirming pick 31 wasn't involved.
Yeah.
It was.
It was.
They moved up 6 spots. We just haven't.
Sorry. Yeah.
We don't.
paid-
Yeah.
We don't know how yet.
And I mean, if there was any doubt that Corey Joseph wasn't going to be on the Pistons next season, I think this puts the nail in the coffin in that.
Bryce, give us the Marcus Sasser rundown if you can.
He played for Houston in college, so that tells you everything you need to know about what he does defensively. Just hard, and he's an older prospect, so he's this, a guy you think like my guess is he's probably older than Killian, to be honest with you. Like I don't know that for sure, but that would be my guess. But what I think is he can shoot the ball. Like that's what I love about Marcus Sasser. Is he going to play on the ball some? Sure, but you can also play him off the ball. Like you want to play him next to Cade, that's okay, because he'll play off the ball and just knock down open shots. And so that's what I really liked about Marcus Sasser. I thought he was really good. Is he older than Killian?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
by a year.
I also think he's better than Killian. So
Dang, what a good
I won't
move.
say anything.
I love Sasser.
I
Happy-
love that. Yeah. This
Happy
is
for you
awesome.
guys.
Yeah, I'm so happy with that selection. That's just like, I know he's not a veteran, but that experienced guard who can just come in and shoot from downtown next to Kay, Ivy. You can play him with Asar. Like,
Bonafide 40% too.
I know he's a bit undersized, but like if he's coming off the bench, I don't think that matters as much. Like
Well, there you go, right? There's another shooter.
I'm like more excited about this pick than pick 5. Like I'm not gonna lie.
Hey,
I just
no,
wasn't
no
expecting that.
star
I don't
hate
blame you.
here.
No, I'm not an Asar hater. I love the pick, but just in terms of excitement, like I'm really happy with that because I really liked him. I just wasn't sure if it was going to play out.
Yeah, and I mean Sasser is one of the more like league ready guys in this class, in my opinion. And I was hoping with the Pistons' second pick, they would target a point guard to put somewhere in the rotation. So I think it's a great pick, and I love the fit.
Do we think this means Killian might be on the outs? Like, is this a
I
Killian
don't-
replacement?
Where do Killian's minutes come from now? Because like, I mean, I guess you could play them together in the backcourt. I mean, I guess there could be an argument that he's like an Alec Burks replacement, but I don't know. %40 on 8.5 attempts per game. Last season.
Oh wow, I didn't realize he was. Or wait, no, I don't think he is in the green room. They just showed Kelvin Sampson hugging someone. I assumed it was Sasser, but it was not.
Increased assists every year. Never averaged more than 2 turnovers per game.
Wait, okay. Woj just said. Hold on, sorry. Okay, I think he might have messed up because Woj tweeted out number 31 and future second-round picks to the Pistons. So I think he probably meant to say the Celtics.
So future seconds.
Yeah.
It's nice value, though.
Yeah.
Just send out 31 and some future seconds to move up a few spots, get the guy you're targeting.
And really get a guy who's like a top 20 talent, really. The size and the age are the only drawbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're talking about a bench guard. That's not really
well, no, so like
drawback when no one's got higher hopes for him, you know?
The age isn't a drawback for the Pistons whenever they're wanting to, kind of.
Yeah, accelerate things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can come in, you can play, he can defend, he's going to shoot it. Like that's a great fit.
Future second via James.
There you go. So now they got 3 shooters. They got Bojan, Burks, and Sasser. There you go.
He's so small.
So I just wanted to go back to the Killian Hayes thing. No, I'm sorry because I'm sort of doing something on the side here, so my bad. But yeah, what does this spell for Killian Hayes? I don't think I heard Blake or Damon chime in. I'd be interested to get your guys' opinions.
Yeah, for me, honestly, I thought that Sasser was someone that the Pistons should be looking towards at 31. When I was thinking through it, I didn't necessarily think that meant the end for Killian Hayes. Like I said, I think Sasser is pretty league ready, so I would love to see him find minutes somewhere. I sort of assumed it would maybe be in that third point guard role, but I don't know. Maybe this is like bumping him in and Killian being on the out.
For sure. And Damon, do you have any thoughts from an outsider, from a Phoenix Suns fan's perspective?
On just the trade or the whole thing in general? Sorry, I'm trying to figure some Suns things.
No, that's okay. I was just.
What was
Killian
the question?
Killian Hayes.
On Killian's.
Yeah.
I was really high on Killian coming out of the draft. Obviously, me and Kevin O'Connor were both wrong on that one. But I don't think he's skill-less. I think he has a little bit of value around the NBA, at least, if for nothing else than just like a change of scenery type move. where maybe just like a second round pick or some cash considerations or something.
For sure.
So I do kind of think this might be the end for Hayes. But part of it is just that I think they've been linked to a few restricted free agents. I could just now see it more likely now that maybe he is involved in the sign-in trade. I mean, if we're being honest, it's probably best for Killian if he gets to move on too. I mean, I don't think he's going to go ahead and then, start anywhere, but it's not really been working for him in Detroit, and it hasn't been a great fit. They've kept drafting guards in the first round every year since picking them now, 3 for 3, right? With Cade Ivey and now Sasser as a first round pick. So, and the other thing too is like I know it's a late first round pick. That's still a first round pick. Like they're gonna play. They're gonna play the guy. Sasser's gonna play. You got Burks back there. Bojan's fitting in somewhere on the wing. So is Asar, Cade Ivey. I mean, that backcourt's pretty full. And if we're figuring Sasser's going to play, I just don't know. I don't know where Killian's minutes are coming from. And like Bryce said earlier, I mean, if Asar really is the playmaker that a lot of people think he might be, like he might be doing some initiating as a bench guy, like getting minutes with the bench guys. That also eats into Killian Hayes. So yeah, I just kind of think it's probably time.
Can I interest you in the 52nd pick? Where you can select Imani Bates?
I kind of hope we're
Imani
not done. Like that would have happened way too quick for me.
Yeah,
Man.
Doug brings up a good point too. So Killian could have got extended. He's just in that Stewart boat, right? Like he's about to potentially be paid. I don't think the Pistons are actually going to pay him, but like coming up on the last year of his deal, he's not a long-term fit. You're better off to move him now instead of wait and just let him walk in free agency next year. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of like teams that would potentially take a flyer on him. Like I was thinking of Brooklyn. I'm not sure what the rest of their night looks like, but if they would have been willing to give up 21 or 22, like I mean, I think that would have been solid for Detroit. I don't know.
see Washington being open to taking the swing, just
Yeah.
seeing what he's got with how they're bottoming out. I mean, I'll be honest though, I don't think Killian will get a first round pick.
Yeah.
I think if he's moved, you're looking at future seconds or it's in a sign and trade,
Yeah.
which isn't exciting, especially for the 7th overall pick.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a bag of basketballs.
Or the Kyle Korver thing, literally a washing machine.
David, your guy Ben Shepherd just went to Indiana.
Yeah.
I'm not super familiar with him. What's the rundown on Shepherd?
One of the most efficient scorers in the college game last season. 4-year guy averaged 18.8 points on 48% shooting and 42% from three, including 43% on pull-up twos, 49% on pull-up threes, 40% on catch and shoot threes. So just like probably one of the best shooters in the draft. I think it could give Hawkins a run for his money. Was also 57.3% at the rim. So he's kind of just a guy who is like a body on defense that competes, but doesn't do like a ton on that end. And then on offense, just totally shreds the nets.
I'm sorry, guys. My internet was just really bad there for about 10 minutes.
All good.
All good.
So I'm not sure what you guys were talking about, but I guess just for if someone could just go through Sasser's potential on defense. I know he's smaller. I know he's most likely going to come off the bench, but just sort of Blake or Damon, just how do you see Sasser, defensively in year 1 and 2?
Yeah, I mean, if there is a concern, I think it's just size with him. Like potentially defenses will try to get him to switch on to bigger players and try to exploit him. That said, I think he's a really good defender for his size. I mean, hopefully he doesn't have like a huge adjustment period. Like I said, like I just think he's super ready for the next level. So I think it's not as big of a concern as I'm probably saying for him, but it is just like something to think about as he gets used to the league.
Yeah, he averaged almost more steals than fouls. 1.6 steals over the past 3 years combined. So consistently a great steals guy. And Houston's defenses are just dogs, to put it
I was
simply.
going to ask him, he's feisty on that end, right? He
Yeah.
fights.
Mhm.
He's really active. What do you guys think of kind of like a modern Lindsey Hunter? That's kind of what I was seeing when I was looking at him. Just pit bull on defense, but this guy can shoot.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I think he's a really good on-ball defender. I mean, he's gonna like. There's no effort questions with him. Like he's always gonna be active on the defensive end, even if he is put into situations where he has to guard a bigger player. But no matter what, I don't think the Pistons are getting a guy that's gonna be a total liability on defense.
Oh, Monty's going to love Sasser too, by the way.
Yeah.
That's like, he loves short guards who fight.
It's just like his type, or is there a like particular archetype with it?
Well, there's like Chris Paul and Campaign that he's liked over the last few years, and then Saban Lee got a lot of run too when he was here. Or I guess in the little bit where he was on the main roster instead of the two-way stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, Doug in the comments is a massive fan of and a believer in Sasser's defense. So I just wanted to pull that comment up.
And I think like I might have been a little too hard on the size thing. Like he is a positive defender, I think. It's just like if you are going to be picky with him, like I think that's the thing translating to the next level.
So how tall is he? I mean, I see it's listed at 6'2". I don't really believe that. So what is he, like 6 foot, 6'1"? That's a generous
I think he was at
6'2".
the combine. I think I could just pull that up. Let's see.
Also, in the meantime, Nick Smith went to Charlotte, so I guess they weren't fully opposed to drafting guards.
Another
like that for them.
Yeah.
So Sasser at the combine, Sasser measured in at 6'1.25", and that's without shoes.
That's better than I thought.
What? Yeah, that's taller than I was giving him credit for.
So
he's
and
a
a
good
6'7"
6'2"
wingspan
shoes.
too, by the way.
Nice.
What was the wingspan? Sorry,
6'7".
Oh wow! So +5.
Mm-hmm. And weighing in just under 200.
So
I mean, he's not tiny. Yeah.
No.
I've got something here that'll get Pistons fans really excited. I think Bryce alluded to it before he jumped off, but catch and shoot threes, 46% on 122 attempts last season.
That's incredible.
Guarded catch and shoot 3-point attempts. So defender within a few feet, if not right up in his grill. He shoots 40% on 57 attempts last season. And then on unguarded, 50%. So this guy can shoot. We've been dying for shooting. We sort of laughed earlier about the lack of shooting on the roster. That's something to get really excited about. And this guy, if I pull up his dribble shooting, he's shot 31% on dribble jumpers, on dribble threes, which that's still pretty decent. That's not horrible. So this guy can shoot. So, and he also looks like he has a good floater. So, that scoring punch from the backup guard position, I really like it. And I think he complements Cade Ivey pretty well, at least offensively.
Well, I mean, it's the classic 3-and-D point guard, right? I mean, he just fits so nicely into that role. He's NBA ready, like you've been saying, Blake. I mean, this is a guy that's going to come in and probably make an impact right away. So
Oh,
that's
100%.
huge to be getting at the end of the first round.
Yeah.
That's huge.
No, it's really exciting.
Also worth pointing out, you get the extra guaranteed year or two that comes with a first rounder instead of a second rounder. So an extra year of control.
Kyle pointed out it's 2 future seconds now in the chart. So 31, 2 future seconds for 25. Still, I mean, that's great value.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun keeping up with those seconds too in the future.
Oh yeah.
And then just a couple picks to get us caught up. Utah took Bryce Sensabaugh, and Denver took Julian Strother. So now we're at 30, getting ready to finish up the first round.
So
Strother
are
off the
there-
board, but I'm still happy with the Sasa pick.
Yeah, me
Because-
too.
Sorry, just to finish that off, like, just in the games I watched, admittedly, I don't watch a ton of college ball, but he just, like, he's a dog. Like, people throw that term around a ton, but, like, he actually is. Like, he really gives a shit. Like, I can't wait to see him, like, with Jaden Ivey, because that's another guy who really lets his emotions go on the court, which I love that stuff, just as a fan, but I also think it's really good for a player in their developmental arc, and, yeah, I'm stoked. Sorry,
I mean, I will say this is 2 guys in the draft now between him and Asar that, like, they give effort on defense. I mean, Asar's got bad habits, and Bryce has brought it up, but you cannot question his effort on that end. And Sasser's the same way. I mean, he fights on defense. He's a good guard defender. So I mean, Asar doesn't help with the shooting, Sasser does, but they really improved on that end of the floor tonight. I think that's a huge takeaway.
And I know he's 6'2", but he's still undersized, and, like, to be an undersized guard, like, you've got to really work for stuff.
Mhm.
Like, at any level
Yeah.
of basketball, you got to really work, be really skilled. Yeah, excited. And Blake, I did cut you off a couple of minutes ago. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, is there anyone that I know we still have a pick to go that is looking like they're gonna fall out of the first round that we're surprised about?
Has Leonard Miller been picked?
No, like, yeah, he's the one that came to mind for
That's
me.
the name for me. Yeah, that's the name for me.
This isn't
I
as
was- Go ahead,
this
Jeff.
isn't surprise. I don't think this is surprising, but has Maxwell Lewis been picked? Did I miss that?
No, he's still there.
Not yet.
Okay. Because Nick Smith was taken just before, so he was probably the one I was looking at. Oh, has Sensabaugh been taken?
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
just
Okay.
taken.
Oh, sorry.
At Utah,
So here's a
28.
good question.
Yep.
Here's a good question. Who plays power forward? Is it Stewart? Is it a free agent? Is it Bojan? Like, what do we think the plan is here moving into, free agency?
I mean, I think
the team. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, it depending on if we do send an offer sheet to someone like Cam Johnson and are able to pry him away from Brooklyn, I think, like, that's the answer right there. But as it stands now, I would say, like, Bojan is gonna start, and I would assume Stewart would probably be the first one off the bench.
I think if you ask the team, the organization, and they're being honest, they would say their starting power forward is not on the team yet. But that just, I mean, it depends on how they're able to work free agency or the trade market. And if it's not, if it is somebody still on a team, I think they probably give Stewart the first crack.
I was going to say, I think if Stewart gets extended, I could see him getting first crack until someone outplays him or the lineup just simply doesn't work and isn't effective. Just because I think there's more of a premium on trying to win this season.
Yeah, I would lean toward not on the roster yet, but among the guys that are, I would do Stewart is my Monty answer, but Boyan is my personal answer.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to start Boyan on the 4. I don't think it's going to happen, but I mean, that would be what I do. I would lean not on the roster yet as well. And I almost think that's just to the benefit of Stewart. I mean, excuse me, long term, like if he hits his potential, you're looking at a really good third big who's super switchable, can shoot it a little bit, and can do a few other things on offense that's interesting. That's a playoff asset, but I don't think Stu's best suited to be starting at the 4. So as a worst case scenario next season, that's not the end of the world, but if they could bring in someone that's ahead of him, I think that'd be best for both, team and for him, Stewart in particular.
So we're at pick 30. So this is the last pick of the first round?
Yeah. So we were planning to go to pick 31, but I mean, it feels like Detroit could be done for the night. So,
I mean, if they're not done,
They're not
like
having 3 guys.
there's no saying if they trade for 32 or they trade for 58. Like,
thanks, Doug. Appreciate it. Well,
Appreciate it, man.
Let's just get sort of we'll see who the Clippers take here, close out the first round, but just sort of some closing thoughts, I guess. How's everyone feeling? Sean, I'll turn it over to you.
I am excited about the defensive potential of a wing like Sir Thompson. And while I don't think that selection pays immediate dividends, I think he's the highest upside player. So that in and of itself sort of excites me. And I'm thinking highest upside from not an exclusively defensive perspective, but like he's a high-end impact potential defensive player on the wing, guarding 1 through 3 at least. Like that's something the Pistons desperately needed. It's an ingredient that I think can really change their roster and kind of put people more in other positions where they can more naturally succeed. So I'm really high on the potential of an Asor pick. I think it's bold. I think it's risky. I think there's a chance it doesn't work out, but there was really no potential selections that was really going to bum me up this year. So Sasser as a catch and shoot option that can play probably right away in a role on the low end to the Corey Joseph role, on the high end backup point guard Killian Hayes role. I think that just does a lot for Monty Williams to play the kind of lineups he wants, because he's going to have some optionality with the roster he has in place and the options he has. The Pistons still have a bunch of money, so they still have a bunch of holes to fill. Hoping Marvin Bagley gets traded at some point today, but I guess that's not likely. So I guess I'm a cautiously optimistic fan, and I think that Monty has some chips that he can now put into his rotation that can really allow him to play the kinds of lineups he wants, which is, I think, the most exciting part.
For sure. And Blake?
Yeah, I mean, just starting with Asar, I think I was a little bit higher on him than others. I know that there was some people around the league even had Asar higher than his brother. I don't think I was quite there, but really what I see from him is just filling a need on the wing. And I do think that there is some secondary playmaking potential that he has that we haven't seen yet, because his Amen was running the show at OTE. I think a big concern and why some people might not be super excited was just like the competition level at OTE. I think that is a little bit overblown. I think everyone in that program is there for a reason. A lot of them are high level recruits. So I'm really excited to see where Asar immediately fits in. But I do think long term he can be a starting wing on this team. And then moving over to Sasser, like I really wanted the Pistons to think about a rotational point guard with their second pick. And I think they got the perfect guy to do that. Like I've been saying, he is one of the older guys in this class. He's going to come in and be able to contribute immediately, both as like a shooter as well as a defender. So I'm really excited about that pick as well. I think clearly the whole organization was, because they moved up to get him. So I'm excited to see where he fits in immediately to this roster as well. But I'm pretty optimistic that he'll make a long-term impact to the team.
For sure. And I guess, Damon, I know you're not necessarily a fan of the Pistons, but I guess, what do you think of their 2 picks tonight? I've seen some people throw around home run.
I would say it's a home run of a draft, yeah. I think you got the guy with the highest ceiling at number 5 among at least guys that were still on the board, and then got probably the guy with the highest floor in Sasser, where they got him. And I don't know, you just add 2 really good players to a core that's already got a couple good staples in it. I think you're really moving along with the rebuild.
For sure. And my guy Wes, you battled through tonight. I'm impressed. The flu game is Blake up there.
The game for sure. Taking the Dayquil shot mid, that was a highlight. But anyway, no, I think my biggest takeaway is just, I mentioned it earlier, I think it's the defense. I mean, I do have some concerns with Asar. I mean, that's pretty well documented at this point. But the one thing you can't take from him is the effort that he gives on that end of the floor. And Sasser's the same way. I mean, he's a pit bull on that end, and he can shoot it. So I think there is a not insignificant improvement that they just made on the defensive side of the ball, both on the wing and at the guard position. So I think that's pretty big. And we'll see what they can do in free agency to address that 4 position, and maybe we'll see what happens with Killian Hayes. But I do think this was a good draft night. I think it was a good draft night.
Yeah, I would agree. And I want to close it out with one question here from Thomas. Do you think Asar starts day one? We sort of touched on this earlier in the stream, but I think it's worthwhile revisiting. Sean, how do you see it?
I think they start him because they probably want him to play with less of an offensive responsibility role. So if it's Cade, Jaden, and then Asar, plus whatever happens at power forward and center, I think that allows him to play sort of a super utility role that doesn't put too much on his plate. So I'm going to say he probably starts day one.
Blake and Damon, do you guys agree, disagree?
Yeah, I think the same. I mean, where the roster stands now, I mean, personally, I would start Asar just to get him playing alongside Caden Ivey. I feel like it's a little bit of a cop-out answer, but I do feel like there is also a bit of an impact on like what happens in free agency. If they are able to bring in another wing that can make more of an immediate impact, maybe you start that player next to Bojan or Stewart, and it lessens a little bit of the burden off of Asar as well to come in the second unit and take some time to get used to a new competition level.
Yeah, I really like the line of thinking that you want Asar to start with less offensive responsibility and kind of work into it. I would also err on the side of it's really early in the offseason still, and there's a lot still that is going to happen. But just based on what the roster looks like right now, I would start Asar for sure.
So I actually tweeted this out this morning, but just with whoever it was that was going to be the number 5 pick, that'll be pivotal, right, for the future. You're heavily invested in that guy. I think it's important that you're throwing him out there with Cade and Ivy, just so that the three of them are getting some chemistry and working through some kinks together. I mean, if this is all going to work, right, it's going to go on the shoulders of Cade, Ivy, and Asar Thompson. So I thought no matter what, you'd be starting him and just kind of rolling with the punches, right, going up and down.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess with Sasser now, he'll probably come off the bench, and you would feel like he'll probably be in the rotation, maybe. Having two rookies together off the bench. Yeah, I like the thinking behind putting Asar, taking the creation, any sort of creation responsibilities off him as a rookie, for sure. And I think putting him alongside Cade and Jaden definitely does that. Oh, and we have Matt back joining us. We were just about to close
Thanks
out.
for popping back in.
Oh, you were? Oh, sorry.
Oh,
No,
good.
that's okay.
We're
I
just
guess-
talking about whether he should Asar Thompson ought to start or not for the Pistons next year, though. If you have any thoughts on that, any insight there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what their plans are. I think I would approach it as, keep everything sort of open, see how the summer goes for them, see how training camp goes. I mean, I wouldn't want to put a whole lot of pressure on them. I don't think it's really necessary to do that. And if you had to come off the bench, I mean, I think it's fine because, I mean, there would be plenty of minutes for him because he's so versatile. I mean, you really can plug him in at three different spots. Yeah, so that's how I approach it. Just sort of keep it open, not really kind of put him in any kind of tight box.
And I guess
what did you think of the Sasser pick?
Yeah, I was going to ask.
Yeah,
Sasser.
Yeah, I really like that pick, and I just think back to when Troy Weaver was hired and wanting to bring in guys that are sort of culture setters and toughness and kind of bring back that bad boys approach, and that's Sasser, and he comes from Kelvin Sampson's program at Houston. That's very much like that, accountability and hard work, and and skill set wise, I mean, I think he has his limitations as a guard, but he does a few things really well. I think his overall approach of being a tough, hard-nosed defender and just player in general, and being a shot maker, I think fits. They've got a lot of talent now that's growing and developing. I think Sasser's the kind of guy that could end up playing a role on a really good team here in a few years.
Of those players that were selected in the first round, where does Sasser rank in sort of ready to contribute day one?
Oh, he's got to be on a short list of guys that are plug and play. I mean, like any player getting drafted, I think he can still get better. I think on ball creation skills for one. I think that's somewhere where he can grow. But yeah, I mean, I think he's ready. I would expect him to have at least somewhat of a limited role at the very least. Probably right away.
And Matt, if I can ask a question as well, I was thinking of Sasser for the Pistons. I wanted them to target like a rotational point guard. What do you think them trading back into the later first round potentially means for the future of Killian Hayes? Do you see him still as like a backup guard on this team and Sasser sort of filling as that third point guard role? Or do you see Sasser coming in being potentially a backup point guard right away?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're drafting the late first round, I like sort of what I was saying about Asar. I think this is even more so. I don't think there needs to be a whole lot of pressure of like, hey, this guy needs to be our backup point guard, this year, or it's a bust. I mean, I do think he has the potential of possibly earning that. But if not, I mean, all of these guys have years to grow and develop. And I think a lot of times the media and fan bases are a little too critical on these young guys. I mean, they're drafting these guys when they're 19, 20, early 20s. That they're, most of these guys aren't even close to their peaks in their career. So, same type of approach. I wouldn't put a whole lot of pressure on it either way.
So I know that a lot of fans going into the draft, Pistons fans in particular, were really high on Cam Whitmore. He is a name on the tip of a lot of people's tongues. Obviously, he had the largest fall in the draft. Now that the dust is settling a little bit, have we figured out exactly what happened there? What are people saying?
There were some medical concerns. I did not hear that he was red flag necessarily, but there were concerns with his knee, and I think he's got some screws in his foot. So I think that was part of it. I think he was a little underwhelming in the interviews, and I'm assuming his agent pretty much prepped for him to be a top 10 pick. So that, teams picking 10 to 20 probably didn't do nearly as much homework or spend as much time with him as some of the other teams. And sometimes when you slip, it becomes like a slippery slope type of deal. But I mean, from my perspective, I think Houston just knocked it out of the park. And obviously, if his knee injuries or medical concerns become real issues, that's a different story. But I mean, if this is like a Michael Porter type deal, where there's some concerns medically and he ends up being a max level player, I mean, getting this kid at 20, I mean, potentially could be the best pick in the draft.
And then, sort of alluding to Houston's big night at 4, and then Pistons picking Ausar at 5. I'm kind of thinking for the Thompson twins overall, within the context of playing in the OTE, do you think they'll show things in NBA that they really couldn't show in the OTE just through the context of that league and the roles they're playing and who they're playing against, and sort of the different kind of game they'll experience in the NBA? Like, what will we see that people aren't maybe expecting?
Well, I mean, I think it's going to be more, the way I look at it is more from a developmental standpoint is, at OTE within the games, I mean, it's built for entertainment. That's how, I mean, obviously the NBA is too, but I mean, Overtime Elite, the rules are a little bit different. They do it, the speed it up, have a lot of transition and highlights for, for social media and whatnot. There's an MC, there's this, the smoke show, behind the hoops, stuff like that. I think getting into a more sophisticated, structured setup in the NBA is going to allow them to grow as players, rather than just being so dependent on making stuff happen in transition off the dribble. I think at times both of them did too much off the dribble. And so I think just continuing to develop as just overall like well-rounded, high IQ basketball players. I'm expecting that with both of them. And then
last question for you. We're talking a lot about the context that Ausar could play within the rotation in Detroit with the Pistons, with Cade and Jaden Ivey. How do you think they would use Ausar kind of in a pick and roll context with one of their guards, or maybe with a big? Sort of, how can that operate, and how can that sort of unlock some of Ausar's game and skills?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one big thing that we talked about before was with Cade, Jaden, and Ausar, I mean, all need to develop as outside shooters, and so I think the quicker one or all of them develop, changes things quite a bit with how they'll play and how effective they'll be. But regardless, all are capable of really being threats off the dribble and pick and roll and high pick and roll, and so I mean, you kind of got a three-headed monster where you kind of keep teams on their heels. And so I like the idea of really kind of putting pressure and getting the ball in the paint, utilizing all three of their talents. I mean, especially with Ivy and Ausar, their burst. I mean, hypothetically, I mean, a couple of years, like these guys could be a real problem off the dribble.
Well, that's certainly what we hope to see. Hopefully sooner rather than later. Thanks so much for taking some time to kind of share your thoughts and talk about your perspective on Ausar. I know the Pistons fans are excited. They've had a lot of draft excitement. They've had a lot of draft heartbreak. So it's always nice to hear from somebody that can kind of shed some light on what to expect.
No, sure. No, I appreciate you guys. Have a good night.
Thanks,
Matt.
All
right. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up. Really appreciate everyone that tuned in tonight. This was so much fun. It was a great show. As always, special thanks to Sean for putting this on for us, and he's the managing editor, the head honcho there at DBB. So thank you to you for supporting the show, and Damon, Blake, thanks for jumping on. Obviously Bryce, Jack as well. Jack had to get to work, but it's like 10 hours in advance for him, so that makes sense. We're going to be back next week, as always, Thursday at 8 p.m. Hope you join us, and we can talk some more Detroit basketball then. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks.